Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast, episode 272, NBA playoffs, first round predictions. And today we have a special guest, the one and only OG. How you doing, OG?
I told you guys, man. Whenever I get a lot of inquiries, man. Whenever you guys call me, I always got time for you guys.
That's why you're the realist.
You know, I'm looking forward to these playoff predictions because I don't know. For some reason, I think that everybody's going to have kind of similar predictions. And that's why yesterday while I was doing my notes, I kind of spiced things up. I said, you know what? I'm just going to pick some teams just because I want to spice things up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to all of you guys' answers. And Drew, I know you're very giddy to name your all NBA awards or your NBA awards that you did not
I guess so.
name.
Yeah, because I was betrayed by my brothers that they decided to do this while I was in Disneyland having the time of my life. However, yes, I do want to start the show with my first team, second team, and then my MVP and all that. So my first team, I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
Second team, I have Stephen Curry,
Mm-hmm.
Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic simply could not be first team because he did not make the playoffs. But you cannot ignore 32, 8, and 8. It's two amazing statistics to not have him here. I have LeBron James, of course. There's no All NBA without him. I have Julius Randle making my second team. I thought he had an unbelievable season. The Knicks were fantastic. He was a huge catalyst to that. Nikola Jokic, he's going to be second team because there's only one center that's able to make first team. Third team, Damian Lillard was unbelievable. I get it. He did not make the playoffs either, but averaging almost 32 points per game on the efficiency that he did, he had to make an All-NBA team. Now, the second guard is where I had my most difficulty. I was torn between James Harden, De'Aaron Fox, D-Book, and honestly, Kyrie Irving. Now, I understand Kyrie Irving, there's a lot of narratives on his name, but I'm acknowledging that he was one of the most efficient guys, one of the more available guys as well. Of course, early on in the season, he had the off-the-court issues, but after that, he really was just one of the most consistent guys to be on the court, and then, of course, efficiency-wise. His team also did not make the playoffs, so I do not have Kyrie Irving as my final guard. I ended up coming to the realization that it has to be De'Aaron Fox. James Harden was my number 2 for the position. James Harden, 21, led the league in assists, was one of the most efficient he's ever been, especially from 3. I believe it was the second highest three-point percentage that he finished with in a season. But all it came down to was De'Aaron Fox was the most available. He was the most clutch player, averaging 25 on 51% from the field for a guard. That is amazing statistics. He's not a three-point shooter. He's a guy that finishes near the basket. He's a guy that lives in that mid-range area, and he was one of the most efficient guards in the game. So I had to give that final spot to him. I have Jaylen Brown at the 3, Kevin Durant at the 4. Now, I understand there's a lot of talk that Kevin Durant can't be in your All-NBA because he only played 47 games. To me, that means nothing for the fact that he was historic efficiency-wise. 55, 40, and 90. That is unbelievable with the points per game that he averaged. He's a phenomenal basketball player. I don't care about the games played. It'll be the last year that a player this low makes the All-NBA, but regardless, what he did was historic. He's got to make it. And then last, I have Domantas Sabonis for obvious reasons. He has to be that final center.
No, Jaylen Brown.
I said Jaylen Brown was my 3.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that.
It's Jaylen Brown.
Do you have Kyrie over Donovan Mitchell?
No,
Donovan
Mitchell's his first team.
This guy doesn't listen.
Does anyone pay attention?
No, no one. So, yes.
There's
So I have
15
SGA.
players. Excuse me for forgetting one of them.
So
Come
it's
on,
Mitchell's
SGA.
first team.
Yeah, all right. Just a real quick brush over. SGA, Donovan Mitchell, Tatum, Giannis, Joel Embiid. That's the first team.
Yep.
Number 2, Curry, Luka, LeBron, Julius Randle, Nikola Jokic. Third team, Damian Lillard, De'Aaron Fox, Jaylen Brown, Kevin Durant, Domantas Sabonis. Honorable mentions, Jaren Jackson Jr., Lauri Markkanen, Devin Booker, Kyrie Irving, James Harden.
No AD?
Anthony Davis, unfortunately, can't make it, although I think that he was unbelievable this season. You could argue that in the regular season, he was better than LeBron James, more important to the Lakers than LeBron James. I just think that Sabonis, with the success that the Kings saw this season, he has to make it. And if AD was to be logged at the 4, I would have had him over Kevin Durant. Although I just went on this whole spiel of why he was historic, he needs to be there because AD was a little bit more available than him. And on top of it, he was dominant on both sides of the court. I would have gone AD. But AD logged a ton of minutes at center, and he's just not going to make it. They're going to give the award to Sabonis.
So today we have the play-in games. We have the Bulls versus the Heat and the Thunder versus the Timberwolves. Now, I know Anthony Edwards had a bad game. Arguably the worst of his career.
Bad is an understatement.
Bad?
But if he
It was
doesn't,
all-time terrible.
the Wolves beat the brakes off the Lakers.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, man.
And number 2, Anthony Edwards tonight. Now he's gonna show out. He's gonna he posted on his IG story that he's gonna have over 30 tonight. That's why I have him over 27.5 on Boom Fantasy. That's my pick for tonight. Anthony Edwards. Watch him at least 30. And I have another bet, alternate points, 30 plus. SGA. Do you guys think he has over 33.5
easily
tonight?
Yeah, I think that with the way that he started off slow last game against the Pelicans and in that third quarter, he just has another gear that he can get to. He just needs to be aggressive. He needs to attack the paint like he's done all season long. 33.5 is a lot. I still believe that is a lot of points. I'm talking myself out of it as I go.
SGA is going for 40.
John, big screen. What's going on, guys?
Big screen.
Sorry, I'm playing around with it.
SGA is going for 40. They don't have anything. They don't have anything to stop him. They don't have anything for him. He's going to outplay Ant-Man today.
He's just going to attack Mike Conley again. Again, that's going to get ugly fast.
But I just don't think that Conley's going to be the defender on him.
If he goes for 40, they beat Minnesota going away.
Easy.
Yeah.
I agree. But the fact that last game we saw Giddey, we saw him and Dort all have 30 balls. So, I mean, it's not – I mean, I don't know if that's repeatable, to be honest with you.
Probably not the Dort thing.
No, definitely not Dort, especially with Jalen Will kind of having a rough game for his standards or what at least he's shown us. I'm going to say over, but this one's tough. 33.5 is a lot of points.
And now,
that easily.
The last Boom Fantasy thing I got for you guys is a matchup. Zach LaVine versus Jimmy Butler, who has more points tonight. Matchups only available on Boom Fantasy.
I mean,
LaVine.
Riv, what are we doing here? Come on.
You know what we're doing. LaVine.
Come on.
What do you think, John? Because you were high on Jimmy Butler earlier.
Give it up, John.
Oh my goodness, John.
You and your brain just spit it out, dude. Come on.
Relax, bro. I think with a really bad matchup for the Bulls, his speed off the dribble and have 30. But
John.
I'm taking Jimmy Butler. He's going to win this game for them. For sure.
You feel good about that?
They shouldn't have traded him. They should have given him the next contract.
How good do you feel about that, John? 1 to 10.
10 out of 10.
He's capping. You can tell in his face he's lying.
He just lied like hell.
Yeah.
Riv, you're the Bulls fan here.
Yeah, you're the Heat fan apparently.
Nope.
Listen,
Big Bam guy. And you know what? I'll tell you what. I'm sorry, Joel, before we go on. Didn't hear a lick from John about Bam Adebayo prior to us starting the show. All he was doing was yapping about Jimmy Butler and how he's going to be a superstar.
Well,
what happened?
If you want to provide some context, he's only big than Miami has, and playing him 38 minutes per game an entire season is probably going to run him down by the playoffs.
John, you're telling me when you know this guy's an elite basketball
he's
player.
elite, but he's not in the right role and he has no backup. So what do you want?
I'm just wondering, John. I just have to, accountability is big with me. So I just wanted to make sure that we had a little accountability when it came to you and Bam Adebayo.
He's still better than Julius Randle, I'll tell you that much.
Is he? Is he?
He is.
Hey, maybe it's something about the Atlanta Hawks.
God forbid Randle just had the performance Bam had in game 1 of the playoffs, and you're all over him right now.
He had that for 4 games or 5 games. And I think
Bam,
if you put him at power forward, that's his natural position. He'd be better.
Now, listen, John, I was about to defend you, but you know what? You don't deserve it no more. After the Julius Randle slander, you don't deserve it. So you know what? I'm going to side with my guys, Riv and Drew. I'm going Zach LaVine points. I'm going Zach LaVine points easy. You made me do it, John. I was going to go Jimmy Butler. You made me do it. And breaking news coming from Woj right now, the Boston Celtics would be signing 6'5" slasher Joe Dehls to their final roster spot as we approach the playoffs.
Slasher is generous.
People ask me all the time, bro, you think you're on the team? You think you're part of the team? Look at that. Part of the team now, man. It's the last spot we need to get us over the hump.
You can give us some inside information, too.
Yeah, man.
Slasher. They capped.
Oh, man.
Stretch big. Stretch big. Before we move on to the predictions, I want to tell the people about the giveaway we're doing. So, Joel, I don't know if you have the Boom Fantasy lower third ready, but you guys know, partner with Boom Fantasy, best DFS app out there. And right now, if you haven't already downloaded Boom Fantasy, first of all, what are you doing? Second of all, this is the perfect time to do it because we're giving away a copy of MLB The Show for your system, whether that's PlayStation or Xbox. All you have to do, go in the description, click the link for Boom Fantasy, take you to the App Store. If you download it and use code PICKASIDE, PAS, you'll be signed up and automatically entered into the giveaway. We'll be giving away that copy at the end of the month. And you have a chance to win some money. We saw our guy Isaiah Cruz added me. He's turned $2 into $80 just with 3 correct picks. I know not everyone's got $100 to spend every single night. All you need is a few dollars. He went in, picked 3 long shot props. That went from $2 to 80, 40x. You could do that every night. They have toss-ups. You can win 20 times your money. That's the picks we're seeing today with the matchups and everything. So if you go ahead, use PAS as the sign-up code, you'll be automatically entered into the giveaway, and you're helping out the show. People are always looking to support, give you all this free content. This is a way that we pay the bills.
Now, NBA playoff predictions. We're going to start off with the Western Conference because the Western Conference is very spicy. There's series in here that are going to be very interesting. Let's just get out the first one out the way. The Nuggets are going to face the winner of tonight's play-in matchup, Wolves and Pelicans. And I don't know if we need to spend too much time on this. I think we all have the Nuggets in 4 or 5, regardless of who they face.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So Wolves and Thunder. My bad, I said Pelicans.
So I have, if they're going to play the Wolves, it's going to be in 4 games. If they're going to play the Thunder, because the Thunder actually play with a lot of this, I'm giving them 5.
They don't have a big man.
The Timberwolves
doesn't matter.
The Timberwolves have a better shot of taking it to 5 than the Thunder.
I agree.
I agree.
Oh, yeah, do you? I'm telling you right now, the Wolves are not winning tonight.
You want to bet?
Nah, I'm gonna keep my winning sides over
You
here.
don't like them that much, huh? You like them. You don't like them that much.
I have a perfect streak against Joel right now, so I have to be mindful of that.
Because listen, Anthony Edwards, I trust him. Like I said, he might have had a bad game,
Didn't work out.
I trust him with my life.
Being kind.
Your life is on the line.
I'll tell you what. If your life really it was dependent on Anthony Edwards playing well against the Lakers, we're saying prayers.
Fellas, I think we underselling Anthony Edwards in that game because you guys are looking at him strictly from an offensive standpoint in terms of his ability to score. Right. I thought that his ability to defend and just get other people involved in the game and be a part of the game other than scoring, I thought that helped Minnesota out a lot, right? As opposed to him just being a scorer and he wasn't doing anything else, then the Lakers would have won that going away. The fact that he involved himself defensively, I think that helped him out a lot.
Yeah. Defensively, he was elite. He rebounded the ball very well. Yeah. And offensively, he didn't shoot well.
2 field goals in the last 11
but to be fair, I mean, it's difficult when you have Vandal guarding you, then you have backside help. Like there was always 2 or 3 bodies on Edwards wherever he went. So
I understand. Mentioning for some reason, Ant fell multiple times in his right shoulder, pretty rough falls. I think that played a role in it too. Because that wasn't Ant. He wasn't attacking at all.
Yeah, but he's going to bounce back tonight. We know he's going to bounce back tonight. At least I know, Drew. He's going to bounce back tonight because he's Ant-Man. He's Anthony Edwards. That's who he is. That's who he is. But next series, Suns versus Clippers, the 4 seed versus the 5 seed. Now, Riv, you have Clippers in 6, if I'm not mistaken. And because you have the Clippers, I think you're the only one on this panel that's going to have them winning. So that's why I want you to go first and give your reasoning.
Bro just threw me on the spot. Me and Joel already had this conversation, so it's like having it again. I got the Clippers in 6, and I got the Clippers in 6 for just the simple fact I'm under the belief that Paul George is not going to be back until game 6 or 7. I'm not as optimistic as others. I don't think he comes back game 3 or 4. I look at the matchup as the Clippers are probably one of the few teams in the West that can throw multiple bodies at Kevin Durant and Devin Booker.
You're good. Keep going.
Oh, okay. So my train running? The Clippers are the only team one of the few teams in the West that can throw a couple bodies at Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. And I think that's one of the most important things. I think when you have bodies that can defend, that can stay in front of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, that's important. You have Ty Lue, who's pretty much has shown us in the playoffs that he's great at adjustments. He's great at game managing. You have Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi Leonard offensively over the last 3-4 months has been one of the best players in the league. He's been back to that efficient form, and you love to see that. And then they have pretty good role players, and we have good role players that can kind of offset other players like Chris Paul, DeAndre, and that's something good. Like the Phoenix Suns don't have a bunch of role players. The continuity isn't all the way there. Yes, Kevin Durant is one of the easiest plug-and-play type of players, but that's still a team that doesn't have a lot of chemistry as opposed to the Clippers. They've been together for some time. So I just think this series isn't a wash like everybody else is making it to seem. I think the Clippers are about 8-9 deep and can give the Suns some trouble. So I got the Clippers in 6.
Well, listen, this is why they're going to be wrong ultimately. One, to have the Clippers winning in 6 is disrespectful. at least have it going to 7. That's my first knock.
But if they go to 7, there's no chance.
Yeah, we know KD's going to come to play and outplay Kawhi Leonard. We know that.
But at the end, you're saying no Paul George, and you still think that they're going to win the series. That's where I have difficulty. King.
I don't think they win in 7 in Phoenix. I think they're better off winning in 6 in Los Angeles.
Now, one of the things you mentioned is that Tyronn Lue makes adjustments. Well, usually he makes adjustments late in series when the team is down. Well, yeah, we've seen the team be down multiple times 2-0. If you're down 2-0 against Phoenix, you're going to lose in 5. Simple as that. You're not coming back from that. I don't care about the adjustments. And you talk about the role players, but the Suns just have the star power. It's Kevin Durant. It's Devin Booker. They averaged 59.2 points per game in the regular season, only behind Luke and Kyrie, that duo. And offensively, I just have too many question marks about the Clippers. One, the spacing, Russell Westbrook, those Zubac lineups. I'm curious to see who Kevin Durant's going to guard. I want Kevin Durant to be a roaming help defender, so possibly put him on Westbrook when he's not involved in actions, or put him on somebody like Eric Gordon or Marcus Morris if he starts, or Batum, one of those guys, just so he can be roaming and be a help defender. Ultimately, I just think the Clippers have to go small in this series. Zubac is going to get abused and drop coverage, and I think if the Clippers go small, that plays to the Suns' advantage because DeAndre Ayton is still one of the better centers in the league. I know he's a disappointment for the pick he was selected at, but DeAndre Ayton is still a top 5, top 8-ish center in the NBA, and if he's the 4th best player on the Suns, I think that's just a far more talented team than the Clippers. I do have concerns about the Suns' wings because it's Torrey Craig, Josh Okogie, Ish Wainwright, and some TJ Warren minutes here and there. I think the players that play the most are Okogie and Torrey Craig and Wainwright to get some minutes. But I think Torrey Craig is a serviceable wing. He can defend. He's shooting 39% from 3 this year. And for me, I just think that the Suns are too good. I think this is the finals team. I think the Clippers, although on paper it looks like they have a bunch of this wing depth, they're 21st in defensive rating. They're not a very good defensive team. Since the start of the new year, they haven't been a very good defensive team. They allowed the most points ever in a regular season game to the Sacramento Kings earlier this season. So I don't trust their defense. Offensively, I have concerns with the lack of shooting. They can close in on Kawhi Leonard easier. And the Suns are just going to be too hard to stop offensively. I think the Suns win in 5. I think this is a comfortable series for them.
Star power is a bit overrated sometimes. I think, especially in this NBA now, where teams are more geared to having the 2 stars but a plethora of depth, those are the teams that usually go far and go deep. As opposed to Phoenix, yeah, they have the 2 stars, but they have maybe 3 to 4 players that can give you that extra push. Like if you look at championship teams like Boston last year, they had role players. You look at a team like Golden State, they had guys that complemented their stars. Like even the Bucks, he was missing Middleton, but they had guys. Like I think the star power is good, but I think now in this NBA, role players is far more important.
I could combat that. I'm sorry, Joe, if you had a point.
No, you could go, OG.
I could combat that point with, isn't that the same problem that the Miami Heat are having? Because they don't have the depth, right? And they don't have the rotation guys, and they don't have the talent, which would be the difference in the series. So
I don't think they have both, though.
But I do think, we've seen Jimmy Butler from time to time, especially in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler is a real thing. Bam, we saw him in the playoffs. It was a couple years ago, but we did see him in the playoffs. And his production did get better over the course of this season. He did turn into a 20-10 guy, but I thought that those rotation guys, that could combat the idea of your rotation guys being better because they don't have that. Now, as far as the Clippers, I think that if this was January, Paul George would be out until the All-Star break. That's number one, because I think that injury is a lot worse than what they're telling us. I think he's a lot more hurt, and I do think he dodged the bullet, but I think it's a lot more than what they're telling us. I think Ty Lue is going to have his hands tied. What I mean when I say he's going to have his hands tied, he's going to have to turn Russ loose. He's going to have to let Russ do Russ. And that's going to be a problem because we know Russ is going to throw the ball in the second row. We know Russ is going to shoot the ball off the top of the backboard because we know that that's who Russ is. However, we also know that Russ is going to play make for rim runners like Zubac. He's going to get Bones shots, right? He's going to get guys, Markieff Morris. He's going to get them shots, and he's going to create his own offense. I think the difference in this series is the fact that how good Phoenix is offensively. Adding Kevin Durant, I think that's what's going to tip the scale. I think that if Kevin Durant wasn't on this roster, I think we'd have a pretty even matchup. But the fact that you're adding Kevin Durant in this particular series, and that's 27 a game that they don't account for. So I think that's going to be the difference in the series. I think Phoenix handles them.
And also, sorry, John, but it's not like the Suns have these two top players and then everybody else is a drop off. Right. It's KD, it's D Book. Then you have Chris Paul. Obviously, he's not who he once was, but he's still a steady point guard, and he's at least somebody that is a better decision maker with the ball than Russell Westbrook, 100%.
Yep.
DeAndre Ayton he's not an all-star, but you can argue he's a borderline one if he was a more primary option on his team. And then Cameron Payne. It was not too long ago where Cameron Payne was one of the better bench guards in the league. I think that he's still able to give you a spark. Terrence Ross can give you a spark. Torrey Craig is a good wing, at least a good backup wing. I think the Suns have a solid 8-man rotation that they can fill out for the playoffs.
This is not the Clippers team that went to the conference finals 2 years ago. In no way, no how. They still don't have a point guard you can close games with. For as well as Russ has played, we know in the playoffs you can't rely on him. And then you look at this wing depth that everyone's propped up. Marcus Morris is cooked. Nick Batum's 2 years older. Terrence Mann's good, but to ask Kawhi Leonard to single-handedly run the offense and then also guard Kevin Durant for 40 minutes, well, consequently, Terrence Mann's going to have to guard Devin Booker for how long? This is a series the Suns are winning 4 or 5 games. I wouldn't be surprised if Paul George doesn't play late in games. I don't know how the Clippers are going to have a good enough offense that could be with the Suns team. Because I know, Riv, you're a big Chris Paul hater. I've seen you've thrown shades at him saying Jason Kidd's better, though he shot 39% in the playoffs for his career. Chris Paul is still a guy late in games you can rely on in pick and roll. And I think the Suns offense has way too many mismatches, and you prop up Tyronn Lue way too much where it takes him 2 or 3 games. This ain't the Utah Jazz Rudy Gobert. If you wait 2 or 3 games to make the adjustment, you're cooked. I think the Suns team is a lot better than you give them credit for. And with that being said, I'm pretty hyped for this matchup because we have been gypped of Kawhi versus KD for 3 straight postseason runs. We should have saw those 2 in the finals in 2020 and 21, but Kawhi gets hurt, tears his ACL partially. Kyrie gets hurt, and so does Harden. 2019, we should have saw him in the finals. We only got it for 12 minutes. And in 2017, we had it for 26 minutes in game 1 before Zaza did his thing, and Kawhi was out for that series. Now, for the first time, it's another one of those odd years like 2017, 19, and 21. We get this matchup in the first round, but I think KD is going to win this in 5, maybe 6.
John, you're slick for that Jason Kidd comment.
Wait, so I think Jason Kidd is better than Chris Paul. I'm a hater?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
That's how the show works.
Yeah. I just had to make sure that people understood how that didn't make sense, but we had to make it very loud and broad. All right, got it.
Where's the separator with Jason Kidd and Chris Paul? I don't want to talk too much on this, but where's the separator between Jason Kidd and Chris Paul?
Better scorer.
He's a much better scorer.
Scoring guard era. Yeah.
I mean, when I think about his ability to score, I think Jason Kidd was a better transition player. I think he was a better distributor in transition. I think he was a better rebounder. I think he was a better defender because he was more versatile, especially being a bigger guard. And the idea, I'm sorry. The idea that Jason Kidd was Chris Paul was a much better scorer. I think that at his peak, he was 21 a game. I mean, Jason Kidd was at 17 or 18 a game. So it's not like the margin is this. I mean, we're talking about a bucket or 2 buckets. That's not a much better scorer.
The efficiency was this, though. Jason Kidd for his career shot 40%.
Why are you comparing efficiency in 2003 to efficiency in 2015?
Chris Paul played in half a decade later.
But you cannot compare efficiencies from 2 different eras and 2 different point guards.
Well, Chris Paul at his peak in 2008 was in the Jason Kidd era.
Jason Kidd was like, what, 34, 35?
At the end of it.
He was in year 14 at that time.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, he was. So I think Jason Kidd was better. I do. I think Jason Kidd was better. I don't think it was a wash, but I do think Jason Kidd.
What about John Stockton, OG? You think John Stockton's better than CP3?
I do think
John is OG a hater too, or is just Riff?
I think you're all disrespecting Chris Paul.
I'm not. I'm a big fan of Chris Paul. I feel like the cruise that he was on, they should have done a lot better than what they did. That Lob City team. I mean, he had Blake Griffin, who finished 3rd in the league in MVP votes in 2013. He had DeAndre Jordan, who was first team All NBA and one of the better defensive bigs in the game. He had Jamal Crawford, who was the best rotation player in the game. He had one of the best sharpshooter. JJ Redick. He had JJ Redick. It's one of the best sharpshooters in the game, and that team could not get out of the second round of the playoffs. I'm not buying the logic that these guys did not get along, because Kobe and Shaq were not the best of friends, but they managed to get to the NBA Finals 4 times in 5 years. So I'm not buying that logic at all. So the idea that Chris Paul on that unit didn't underachieve because they didn't like each other, no, I'm not buying that at all.
Chris Paul didn't make those guys, though, into what they became.
Blake Griffin?
And
you could also say the same. You could also say the same thing about them. They made him into what he was also.
But he did in New Orleans, and they had their best team ever, win 56 games within the last 15 years. They haven't done that again. I think in the playoffs, Chris Paul's a lot better than people give him credit for, and that's why I lean to him more over Stockton and Kidd, because late in games, I trust him way more than those guys. Now, obviously, in Los Angeles with the Clippers, he had some years of injuries, and Blake Griffin, while he did finish it in the MVP race, he wasn't a top 3 player at the time. I feel like in this role, as a third or fourth, it's going to be a constant mismatch with KD and Devin Booker, and I trust Chris Paul to make the right play, and that's what's going to make this more of a lopsided affair, I think, for Phoenix.
We could also mention that Blake Griffin was arguably the best 4-man in the game at that time. It was between him and Kevin Love. That was a legit argument. So to have one of the best players at your position as a primary scorer, no question about that. And again, to have DeAndre Jordan, one of the best rebounding defensive bigs in the game, the fact that you couldn't get your team to the Western Conference Championship, one, because you were beat up a lot of times. I mean, John Stockton played 20 straight years, and I think he played more than 90% of his games. So the fact that you weren't available and Stock, even though he didn't have, I can appreciate the playoff runs, Stock did have some great playoff runs. I mean, he was responsible for them beating the Houston Rockets in '97. He was past his prime when they beat the Rockets in '97 in the conference championship when he knocked them out. Same thing in the beginning of his career when he was a scorer. I think the first season when they made the playoffs, when he was a starter, I think he averaged 19, and then the next year he averaged 27 and put 2 20 games on Magic in the playoffs. But then he changed his game because Malone had gotten there and they had tailored the offense more around Karl Malone. But then that would explain why his production as a scorer dropped. But he could score with the best of them. I don't think that was ever a question, because I leave out the 27 and 19 games, or 25 and 14 games that he'd have, because the offense was tailored around Malone and Jeff Malone at that time.
I think it's fair to say that Chris Paul definitely made DeAndre Jordan, but Blake Griffin, when he was traded from the Clippers, was an all-star with the Pistons. And that was
a different player. It
was when injuries were starting to catch up to him at that point too, and he still managed to put up 25 point per game season. So
he also made the All-NBA team too. He's all pro too.
Yeah, I think Blake Griffin definitely. Chris Paul didn't make him. I think Blake Griffin was going to be one of the best players in his position, regardless of Chris Paul going there. But listen, I think when it comes to the Clippers and Suns, the biggest thing too, outside of Russell Westbrook, because I just don't trust Westbrook in the playoff series, and I have in the last 6 years. The biggest thing in this series, too, is the fact that outside of Westbrook, they don't have a playmaker. Paul George was their best playmaker at the wing position, and now you're going to have to ask Kawhi to make more than usual. And I just don't trust Kawhi in those spots. I trust him as a scorer, as an isolation scorer, but as a playmaker, I don't really trust Kawhi that much if he's going to be the playmaker for the team.
But I think that only becomes a problem, because you watch Clippers games when Kawhi or PG are primary playmakers, it becomes an issue when defenders are hounding him or there's tough defenders on them that make it difficult for them to get the ball. There's no one in Phoenix that's really going to make it difficult for Kawhi to get the ball. That's why I don't think him being them having a playmaker is going to be that's one person, yeah. But and even then, Kawhi has the strength over him. He has the size. He has the physical advantages. So it's like there's nobody even then there's nobody even in a switch that's going to make it an issue for Kawhi to get the ball. Like, it would be different if Kawhi is going to have issues, but there's nobody that's going to give him that problem. So I don't think the playmaking is an issue.
But they can key in on him, though.
They can, because it's just Kawhi.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
that's the issue. That's the issue with this series, Riv. I don't see a world the Clippers win this. I understand role players are important, but I also know in the playoffs your bench can shrink and your star players become more important, and you don't have to limit guys to 30, 32 minutes a night. They can play 36 plus minutes, and that's where I think the Suns have the advantage. Not only do you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, who, Kawhi's in that conversation as well, but the way they've been playing this way, especially Kevin Durant, Drew just had him on an all-NBA team and he played less than 50 games. I mean, the way they've been playing to be able to play together, this is going to be my finals pick out of the West, barring something crazy. So I think they get past the Clippers pretty comfortably. And Kawhi Leonard, for how great he is, I think John made a great point. He is really the only defender, perimeter defender at least, on that team that would scare me if I'm the Phoenix Suns. And if I'm the Phoenix Suns, if he wants to guard Kevin Durant or guard Devin Booker, I don't know if Kawhi Leonard in a 7-game series can be able to be out there for 40 minutes and guard an elite level on defensive end and then give you the 30, 35 plus points he's going to need to give them on the offense.
He won't.
Not at this stage.
He'll guard KD like the last 4 minutes of a fourth quarter.
Yes, in crunch time and clutch time when it matters, he will guard him. But I don't think that's going to be enough to be able to slow down this Phoenix Suns offense. I mean, it's a very small sample size, but we know what the numbers show us over that 8-game stretch where they haven't lost number one offense, number one defense. I mean, we're looking at a team, again, small sample size that is really washing everyone out of the water. And this Clippers team who has been up and down all season long. I remember back in, I don't know, what was it, October, November, OG, when you were on the show, you said, I'm just done with the Clippers. I've seen enough of them. And a couple months later, I was like, you know what? I'm on board with OG. I'm tired of this too. And especially without Paul George in this lineup, even if he comes back, I mean, you're talking about game 6, even makes it to a game 6. If you're expecting him just to hop in the lineup, be able to give you effective 15 to 20 minutes, you're asking a lot. And even if he can only give you 10 minutes, that's not going to be enough to push you over the edge. And then you have the issue with Russell Westbrook, who's had a great resurgence. I think this Clippers team, you know, he possibly found a home for the next couple of seasons. 7-game playoff series. You guys have your reservations. I have mine as well. If he could be the main distributor, main playmaker for this Clippers team. So when I look at it, I think there's a talent disadvantage for the Clippers. I just think the Suns are the more talented team. I trust Kevin Durant and Devin Booker for those 2 stars. Who's that second option really going to be on the Clippers? You could talk about the depth that they have. They're a deeper team than the Suns, but I don't think they have this top-end depth like other teams do. Like if you look at the Celtics, who have guys like Derek White, who could be an all-NBA defensive thing, or Malcolm Brogdon could be 6 man of the year. They don't have that type of depth. They have solid guys, a lot of guys that I think could get cooked on the defensive side of the ball. So I got the Suns in 5, maybe 6 if Kawhi could really go God mode for a game or 2, but I don't really see a world where the Clippers can pull this out.
I'm glad you brought that up too about Russell Westbrook. Keep going, Joe, but I'm glad you brought that up about Russell Westbrook. They're going to re-sign him. He's going to stay with the Clippers.
I agree, and also there's not 2 defenders I trust on the Clippers to be matched up against Kevin Durant and Booker for the series. Ultimately,
there's not really 2 defenders in the West that you trust to do that. So I don't.
And that's why they're the favorites out of the West right now.
But I don't think that's I don't think that should be a big issue. It's all about just making somebody tired.
It is an issue though. You can't guard the best players. That's an issue in a playoff series.
Nobody can.
That's why they're favored to win the West.
Yeah, but I think as long as you make them tired, you make them tired. That's the whole end goal of stopping a star. You make them tired from quarter 1 to quarter 4. If you have the bodies to do that, makes
like the Clippers may have the depth role players like Dehls mentioned, but just with Devin Booker alone, his production outmatches Norman Powell, Eric Gordon. He outmatches 4 or 5 role players by himself. So with him, with KD and him, you know, I just think, you know, that in itself is too good. Then the Suns also have complementary piece around that, and Monty Williams, the coach of the year, who I think is also out to prove something, you know, from last year's debacle. And I think the Suns are legit. On to the next series. Grizzlies.
Riv, I was gonna say,
my bad. I didn't know.
Well, it's also because do I sound bad or do I sound okay?
You sound pretty. They're peaking.
You sound bad then, okay.
Yeah.
Do I sound good now? It's only because I'm sorry. It's because someone's mowing their lawn in the background, and that's where you thought the train was. So there's really not much I can do about it. I mean, listen, I don't control who mows their lawn or not.
Regardless of that, it's always me. That's why I'm giving a shit.
I understand. So regardless of that fact, I'm with the rest of the guys. I'm sorry, Riv. I really do feel like you're saying that talent doesn't matter. Unfortunately, in this.
Drew, don't be sorry. He's rooting for the Warriors anyway. He has mad teams in the playoffs.
That's true. That's true.
He does have mad teams.
You said that I'm blanking on your exact wordage, but you're saying you didn't say that. But it was something along the lines where a skill is or talent really is overrated at a point. Where a plethora of talent. If you're not remembering Star power. There it is.
Star power sometimes can be overrated. That's what.
Yeah, but in this scenario, Joel just put it best. Where Devin Booker would, in normal situations, if it's just Kawhi Leonard versus Devin Booker, then now we're talking. But when Devin Booker becomes a team's second option, and your second option is now a Norman Powell, Russell Westbrook, you're cooked. With all due respect. So I'm giving Kawhi Leonard the benefit of the doubt of giving him 6 games. I believe that the Suns will win this series in 6 games. I believe that Kawhi Leonard is a great enough basketball player. He will have one of those performances that he will steal one. And then maybe the Suns just don't have that type of night. I just think that the Clippers are a good enough basketball team to steal another one of those. But regardless, I think the Suns have way too much talent. I disagree with the statement that the Clippers are going to have to play small for the sole fact that Ayton is going to be on the court. So Zubac naturally will be on the court as well. I don't believe that'll be a huge issue. I believe that Zubac is good enough to hold his own against DeAndre Ayton, but the matchup issues elsewhere are the real concern if you are the Los Angeles Clippers. Who's going to defend Kevin Durant consistently throughout the entirety of the game? Kawhi Leonard, yes, you would hope that would be the matchup. I don't see it being the entirety of the game or whenever Kevin's there and Kawhi's on the court, he's going to pick up every time. If anything, if that's the case, then that's when Devin Booker becomes a huge part of this series, because I believe that, yes, your primary focus will be on Kevin Durant because obviously he's the best offensive player in this series, but you can't forget that guy who's 50% from the field and can average 28 points per game in Devin Booker, and that can also facilitate an offense as well. And I haven't even mentioned Chris Paul's name, not even once yet. So in this scenario specifically, I believe that offense will overcome, and that is the Phoenix Suns.
That's true. I think Zubac is going to get played off, though, regardless. He can match against Ayton fine, but in drop coverage, when it's Chris Paul, D-Book, and KD, they're going to have to put in Rocco out there at the 5. They're going to have to make some type of adjustment.
But then you could run the way that I think about it, and it might be ugly, honestly, is you have probably Russ, Norman Powell, Kawhi Leonard, Rocco, because Rocco can kind of stretch, nothing insane. It's ugly. And then Zubac if Ayton's going to be on the court. Because that
lineup has virtually not played a single game.
No, because Rocco is only averaging like 16 minutes a game. So even in that sense, I don't see Rocco really getting that much burn. But honestly, Terrence Mann's another one that I left out of that scenario as well. But Plumlee, I think that's Plumlee facts. But I think that regardless, if you see Ayton on the court, then Zubac will get minutes. And I don't think that it'll be Zubac's responsibility to defend the screens, at least unless they're hunting him out.
Mm-hmm. The Clippers just don't have the screen navigators to really keep up with that, though. They don't, and it's just going to put more stress on Zubac, and that's why I think this is just a huge mismatch for the Clippers. Mm-hmm. I just don't think they match up well personally. That's why, if I didn't respect Kawhi, I would have this. This would be a sweep for me. This would be a sweep.
I really thought Joel was trolling when he set you up for that question, Riv. I did not think you were going to take the Clippers.
Oh, yeah. Wild card.
But especially when Paul George is going to be out, and you just said you believe that he won't be back till game 6 or 7, then how can they win this series without Paul George? It's virtually impossible.
I just explained it.
No, I get it, but I'm telling you that the logic is not there.
You just don't think you just disagree with me. That's all it was.
Strongly.
Yeah.
Grizzlies versus Lakers. Now, Drew, you're going to give your take on this series first, even though I'm pretty sure I know where you're going with based on your hat and your jersey. Then after Drew, OG, I want you to give your take because I'm curious because last time you were on the show, you said if the Lakers were healthy, you do trust them. So I'm curious to see if you have them win this series as well. So, Drew, who's your pick and why?
This is phenomenal, and I appreciate OG because as soon as he got in, he said, Drew, don't think that it goes unnoticed that you're wearing your Laker gear. I get it because me and OG kind of have a little bit of a rivalry when it comes to the Lakers. He understands why. I'll let it be. I know the fans pay attention to it. OG, we're all good on this side, of course, but naturally, I have to talk about my Los Angeles Lakers. And I recorded a video 2 minutes long on Twitter. That was hilarious, Joel. I laughed very hard about that, about why I was happy about the Lakers winning. And it wasn't about the play. It was solely for the fact of the expectations on us and the people's constant disrespect. Now, regardless of that fact, we didn't look good against the Timberwolves by any means. We looked really bad. And we still ended up coming away with the win. Against the Memphis Grizzlies, where Steven Adams and Brandon Clark both are missing. And they do not have another player to average anywhere near 10 rebounds. I believe the next closest is 6 rebounds. The big issue with the Los Angeles Lakers is that we lack size in terms of relative to other teams, where Anthony Davis is our most reliable big, obviously, but outside of that, you don't really have him. Mo Bamba's not going to get those minutes, or he should not get those minutes, in my opinion. You'll see him eventually if we face a team that has that size, and Anthony Davis needs a breather. But Wenyen Gabriel cannot be another guy in this rotation that's going to be playing minutes for us. Where I feel like that'll be beneficial for us against the Grizzlies is we might not have to do that because without Steven Adams, without Brandon Clark, it's not essential that we need to be this big dominant force. we will. I feel like regardless of that fact, we can still be a force on the glass. LeBron James is obviously a great rebounder. Anthony Davis would be the leader in rebounds this season if he were to have qualified for it. He was unbelievable this year. He's really asserted himself as that dominant force on the defensive rebounding end. And really, why I feel confident is for the fact that defensively, yes, you look at the Memphis Grizzlies, that is their strong point. But so is that's our strong point as well. Defensively, we have shown that we can lock down since the All-Star break, since the trade deadline. We have been amongst the top 3 defenses in the league. Now, the concern of ours becomes offense, because this game against the Timberwolves, we not only saw Austin Reeves struggle, but of course, the obvious, D'Angelo Russell had a horrendous game, so bad that he did not even play. I think he played very minimal of the second half. He just came in for plays, spurts, because we needed a better free throw shooter. So what's really going to be the key here is D'Angelo Russell going to be the player that he's been for us since we acquired him from the Minnesota Timberwolves? That is number one, because I know LeBron James is going to be LeBron James. I have no concerns about that. I trust Anthony Davis. I understand Jaren Jackson is the defensive player of the year, or should be the defensive player of the year in my opinion. But I know that when Anthony Davis matches up against Jaren Jackson, Anthony Davis usually comes out on top. Anthony Davis is a dominant force regardless of how you shape it. Defensively, he's going to be crucial as well. But really, another key to it needs to be that we need to be aggressive on these screens, because we play drop on the Grizzlies the last couple of times that we've played them. And John Morant has absolutely torched us. 240 balls and a 39. He's been unbelievable. That needs to be our primary focus, trying to limit John Morant's aggressiveness to the basket. Regardless of that fact, I like this matchup for us. I said it prior to the postseason starting. I said that if I'm the Lakers, I want the 7 seed, because I feel like the Grizzlies is a great matchup for us because they lack the size, as do we. And I feel like in that sense, where we have Anthony Davis, the better big man in this series, I feel like that'll give us the edge. Of course, LeBron James. I'm just going to ride with LeBron and AD. That's really what it's going to come down to. So I have the Lakers in 7, because I believe that if this series goes 7 games, LeBron James is not losing.
Shocker.
So to 2 points. Number one, I think Anthony Davis, to your monologue earlier about the all-league teams, I think Anthony Davis is not only an all-NBA performer, I think he's an all-league defender too. And I think that's going to be the difference in him being an all-NBA performer. That's number one. Number two, when I look at Jaren Jackson, I think Davis is the difference in this series. Why do I feel like that? Because number one, Jaren Jackson fouls way too much for me to be productive in the playoffs. He averages 4 fouls a game. That's against solid bigs. He's going up against an all-league big in Anthony Davis. Who Anthony Davis is going to drag him away from the basket, and that's going to open up the offense even more for the Lakers. That's number one. Number two, I think the biggest part of this is their rotation guys. I think Dennis Schroeder could outplay. I think he could outplay Tyus Jones in this series. And if I think he could outplay Tyus Jones as a backup, I think that could really be beneficial to their unit. So if Memphis decides to go small, that doesn't help them. And the reason why that doesn't help them is because Anthony Davis can play in small ball, because he could stretch the defense. Not only can he stretch the defense, he's one of the better rim runners. I do not like the Memphis Grizzlies if this series goes past 5 games. If Memphis is going to win this series, they got to get rid of the Lakers early. I am not betting on Memphis in Game 6, and I'm definitely not betting on them in Game 7. So if they're going to win this series, they better do it quick.
The Lakers definitely, since trade deadline, they've been number one defense, the top defense for sure. But the Timberwolves game kind of raised an eyebrow. And is this defense really legit? Or did they just face weak competition? I'm kind of teetering in the middle. I think that the defense is good. I think when Vando and AD are on the floor, they make life hell for sure. But I'm not sold on them being this elite defensive unit, especially when Vando's off the court. And I think that some rotational issues they had against the Timberwolves can show up in this series. I think home court advantage in this series is huge. The Grizzlies are 35-6, one of the best home teams in the NBA. They have the 15th best offensive rating. They're second in defensive rating. And my biggest question about them coming into the postseason was their half-court offense. Since they traded for Luke Kennard, they've been the 11th ranked half-court offense in the NBA. He's given them some much-needed floor spacing. And ultimately, I think there are a couple key matchups to this series and one key point. One of the major key points is that the Lakers allow 23.4 transition points per game, the 4th most in the regular season, and the Grizzlies are one of the best transition teams in the NBA. So the Grizzlies, I think, have a potential to force turnovers and get out in transition. That's going to really help them in this series. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking at two main matchups. The first one is Dillon Brooks on LeBron. I think Dillon Brooks, for all the shit he gets as a villain, he's one of the league's best defenders, and he makes it tough on LeBron. It sucks that this year, Lakers and Grizzlies matchups, we haven't really gotten to see it because each time it's either been key injuries or before the trade deadline. So we've never gotten to see these two teams match up fully healthy. But when Brooks was on LeBron this season, the first matchup, he made him go 8 for 21 with 23 points. Dillon Brooks is a pest. He makes it tough. He does foul, but he's somebody that he's one of the few people I do trust on LeBron in a playoff series. And we talk about the Jaren Jackson Jr. and AD matchup, but I don't think that's going to be the matchup. Jaren Jackson, and it's key in the series for him to stay out of foul trouble for sure. But Xavier Tillman is the matchup on Anthony Davis. Jaren Jackson, I think, is going to be playing this roamer role. And Xavier Tillman this year has been amazing on Anthony Davis. He holds him to 36% EFG this season. He's 6'7", so he's not tall, but he has a 7'2" wingspan, and he's 245 pounds. And Anthony Davis versus him, his average shot distance is 12.9. The only players that hold AD to a farther shot are Zubac and Kayvon Looney. So Xavier Tillman, his strong base is able to limit Anthony Davis driving in the paint, and Anthony Davis, when he's matched up against Tillman, settles for a lot of jump shots. And his matchup on Jaren Jackson on Anthony Davis, I keep saying Jaren Jackson, his matchup on AD is huge because if Jaren can stay out of foul trouble, that's the key to the series. Jaren is the key to the series because he just has to be disciplined, and it's hard to trust him because in our 3 matchups this year, he's had 5 fouls in each of them, and he's just a hard player to trust in foul trouble anyway. The X factors in this series outside of Jaren Jackson Jr. for me, for the Lakers, I think it's Vando and Reeves. I think the role players are really going to have to play. Vando is one of the better defenders on Ja Morant in the league, so I think that's going to be a tough matchup for Ja. But if Vando gets played off the court because offensively he's too much of a liability and getting left open, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to have the Vando assignment, and he's going to be helping a lot on these AD post looks. That's going to be tough for the Lakers. And if you can limit those Vando minutes, then you open the floor up for Ja Morant getting going. And he's been very effective against Anthony Davis when he's been the pick and roll defender. Anthony Davis has not been able to hold Ja Morant when he gets to the basket. Ja Morant has really had his way against him this year. And Austin Reeves, he has to show up. He has to be one of their primary ball handlers. He has to shoot well. He has to defend well because he's going to have some possessions on Ja. And ultimately, you can't trust D'Lo. So those minutes are probably going to Schroeder and going to Reeves, and they have to show up. And outside of Jaren Jackson Jr., I think Desmond Bane just has to show up and be consistent as a second option. He's a second scoring option. He has to be consistent. Ultimately, I think the Grizzlies are going to get out in transition on the Lakers. I think they'll be able to stay out of foul trouble. And although Steven Adams being out and Brendan Clark being out hurts them a lot, I think that if they can stay out of foul trouble, it won't matter much. And I favor the Grizzlies coaching and the role players. I have the Grizzlies in 6 games. I think they'll win in 6.
Oh, I think you were underselling it just a bit, Joel. Jaren Jackson Jr. is the most important player of the series.
Absolutely.
Not just defensively, but offensively. I mean, if you watched towards the back end of this year, back-to-back years, he's shown modest strides in his offensive game. And when he shows an ability at times when he sees Smalls line up to get aggressive, pick your poison. But like you said, his foul trouble is concerning. But he's the most important player because he has the most responsibility for the Memphis Grizzlies. He has to hold down the defense. Small ball lineups he has to take advantage of. Offensively, he has to be ready to hit that 3-ball because, like you said, AD drop coverage is going to be there. They're going to help on Ja. That's just what's going to happen. They have to do that. They're going to help on Ja. So Jaren Jackson Jr., Kennard, Desmond Bane, they have to be ready to hit that 3-ball. But I think, Jaren being a roamer is probably going to be the main thing just to keep him out of foul trouble. With AD still going to be a problem. I would like to see a lot of double teams towards AD, make the role players beat you because, like you said, that Minnesota game raised eyebrows. The Lakers role players.
Just keep your mic muted while you're not talking.
The Lakers role players are not that good. Like D'Lo, Vando, these are guys who need to get some quality minutes, and they have liabilities. Offensively, Vando is a non-factor. D'Lo is very, very inconsistent, so you don't know what you're going to get him. If he's not scoring, you don't need to have him out there. He cannot defend at a high level, so you don't need them to have him out there. I think Austin Reeves is probably the most consistent guy for them that you need to keep him out there. But Beasley, he's inconsistent. You can't trust him on a night-to-night basis. Like Rui Hachimura, defensively, he's not great. Offensively in stretches, he can be, but defensively, he's not that great. So now you're looking at guys on the team that are pretty much liabilities on one side of the court and the other, and these are your primary role players. And I think with the Memphis Grizzlies, who is one of the deepest teams in the league, their bench gives it their all. Offensively, in their starting five, they're pretty good. This is a tough matchup for both teams, and I think the coaching factor, Jenkins clears Ham. Like it's not even a discussion with those two. But this is a tough matchup for both teams, I think, because both teams have to figure out a lot of lineup situations, big man situation. But I think Jaren Jackson Jr., for them to win this series, he has to be perfect on both ends. There can't be a situation where he falls off. He has to be perfect on both ends because we know LeBron going to be LeBron. We know AD, if AD's ready to play, he going to be AD. John Morant going to be John Morant. But what are the other guys going to do? The Desmond Bains, the Jaren Jackson Jr.'s, the Austin Reeves. And if you have Desmond Bain out there, I think Desmond Bain can give you that 20 to 22 points per game, which is going to be huge. You have Jaren Jackson to get in it the same way how y'all was looking at the Phoenix, the Clippers matchup. Who's going to offset that production from Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bain for the Lakers? It should be D'Lo, but he's inconsistent. It should be Malik Beasley shooting, but he's inconsistent. It should be Austin Reeves, but this is his first time in the bright lights. Can you expect that from him? We don't know. Vando, offensively, he can't give you much. So there's a lot of situations where the Lakers, Darvin Ham, this is going to be extremely, extremely important for him because he's had trouble with lineup issues all season, and now this is the most important time where you need to be perfect in your lineups because Memphis Grizzlies cause a lot of mismatches, and you have a lot of mismatches yourself. So I think I got Memphis in 6. I'm riding with the boys defensively. They've been great all year. You mentioned the deadline. Grizzlies have been, since Jaren Jackson Jr. has stepped back on the court, they've been one of the best defenses in the NBA, and I think that is important. So I got the Memphis Grizzlies in 6. John Morant. Put that shit
to clarify, I do think Jaren Jackson Jr. is the most important player in the series. I don't know if that got lost in what I said. I just don't think he's going to be the primary matchup on AD. I think it'll be Tillman in his minutes. But Jaren Jackson Jr., him staying out of foul trouble is going to determine the series.
Dillon Brooks, too.
And that's why
Dillon Brooks had problems.
Jared Vanderbilt is so important because he can't shoot really at all, and teams are going to leave him open. And so Jaren's going to be mashed up on him, certainly. I know a lot of Laker fans laugh at Xavier Tillman because Anthony averaged 30 and 20 on him this year in 2 regular season games, but Xavier Tillman is an elite backup big and one of the best defenders at his position. I mean, he had 3 steals in average versus Lakers. He can guard up on pick and rolls. He can switch. I mean, that's going to allow Jaren Jackson to play off the ball as a roamer. But then the question is, defensively, Anthony Davis is going to stifle Jaren Jackson and make him uncomfortable. And a lot of Jaren's fouls come on drives where he just gets all out of whack and then starts to throw his arms and limbs around. So that's another huge part of this series. But the biggest factor in this to me is Taylor Jenkins versus Darvin Ham, because the Lakers are a younger team with a lot of the same role players that last year couldn't play versus the Grizzlies in the first round series as Timberwolves. Malik Beasley's going to make some shots, maybe 1 game or 2. D'Angelo Russell in maybe 1 or 2 games, but last year D'Lo shot 33% versus the Timberwolves. And there are going to be games where he's not on the floor. And that's going to put all of the ball handling on Dennis Schroeder, who's not the most reliable. I trust Tyus Jones more. Though I do agree with the OG, there's probably going to be a game or 2 where Dennis does play well. I just think there's a lot more consistency and structure at this Grizzlies team because with their coach and Taylor Jenkins, he gets the most out of this depth. And they've had 3 years now, this same core of players. They're not going to beat themselves. And at this Lakers bench, I don't trust any of these guys, honestly. Not a single one of them. And a lot of them are new to this playoff environment. Drew's looking all funny, too. I think you're still familiarizing yourself with a lot of these players as a Laker fan because there's no continuity from this team, let alone 2 years ago. It's not crazy to be saying this.
No. John's in his Joel Moran villain phase.
You're so loud.
God damn, Drew.
I don't know what you want me to do with this.
No, you good. We can hate.
You're good. Perfect.
Just don't put it directly on your mouth.
Yeah, you were mad
before it was directly, and it was fine. But regardless, all right. I'm sorry that I just lost my train of thought. But regardless of that fact, again, he's entering his Joel Moran villain phase where he doesn't like the Lakers anymore because I constantly talk about him. I understand. I get it, John.
John is just smart.
No, this is not the Grizzlies. This is not about the Lakers.
You guys are sickening.
I'm also gonna keep going with the fact that a couple of days ago, let me not say weeks, a couple of days ago, you were pretty sold on the Lakers. You were sold on Austin Reeves. You were sold on what we could potentially do come playoff time, and now suddenly,
best player, championship team.
Now suddenly, yeah, no doubt, and now suddenly the tides are changing.
I told you.
Are we gonna have Flip-Aside Junior
ahead of time? D'Angelo Russell is
Flip-Aside the third. Are you Flip-Aside the third?
Let me finish.
The third.
D'Angelo Russell, say it with me, is a playoff choke artist.
All right, if you want to say that, that's fine. We saw it already where you said that Dennis Schroeder could play good for 1 or 2 games. Dennis Schroeder's been very consistent for us essentially all season long. Laker fans are very critical of him. The second that he has a bad game, they're vocal about how that we need to move on from Dennis. That simply is not true. Defensively, he's one of our better guard defenders. Offensively, he's extremely reliable in that sense of for what his role is. So I believe that very firmly. If D'Lo is going to struggle, that's going to hurt us very badly. Absolutely. We need D'Lo to be on his game for us to be very confident. But regardless, I trust Dennis Schroeder in those moments.
To guard John Morant for 40 minutes and then run the offense.
But no one's going to be able to stop John Morant the same way that no one's going to be able to stop Anthony Davis.
Ooh.
Listen, I listen. I think Drew, you mentioned a lot of good things. Dehls, you're about to go, no doubt. Don't worry, I didn't forget about you, buddy. Riv, I think Drew gave you a little bit of a side eye when you were talking about Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson's production, because I do think AD and LeBron match Jaren and Desmond Bane.
That's exactly. I'm glad that you picked that up while my mic was muted.
What you mean?
I think LeBron and AD match the duo of the Lakers match the big three of the Grizzlies production. I think this series comes down to the other guys.
The role players.
I agree. That's exactly my mic being muted is removing my, the quote unquote mannerisms of the nonchalant stuff of the show. But regardless, definitely was giving you the side eye on that. We have LeBron
because I don't look at
Anthony Davis.
I look at superstars and superstars matching up. So they're like low end all stars. So I wasn't really looking at them.
But I will say, Drew, the disrespect to John, for one. You want to call him Flip-Aside.
This guy's disrespecting the Lakers.
I'm tell you one thing.
I'm telling you what you should know.
God.
I'm gonna tell you one thing, Drew, and this is for everybody out there listening and watching. Dehls and John, I have taken them under my wing as Flip-Asides. They're now Flip-Asides. I'm the primary guy. Now, OG, we know this show is called Pick a Side, but our audience gives us a lot of shit when we change our opinions, and they now have nicknamed me the head guy, Flip-Aside, and then John and Dehls are Flip-Aside juniors. But that's not a bad thing. Listen, changing your opinion after watching and analyzing it is a good thing. So listen,
I changed my opinion.
Listen, Flip-Aside, John, Flip-Aside.
The Lakers
Dehls.
2 weeks ago.
I love it, Flip-Aside. And John, to be fair, John always did have the Grizzlies beating the Lakers in the series.
I'm trying to tell you, Dennis Schroeder's not a good playoff player. He hasn't been since Atlanta. D'Angelo Russell's not a playoff player, and these guards are not going to stop John Morant.
None of those dudes and none of those guys played with James. I think the difference in this series is going to be. I think the difference in this series is James is going to have to play off of Anthony Davis. He cannot throw this unit on his back like he did 5-6 years ago. Anthony Davis is going to have to be the catalyst on this unit. And they're gonna go the way he goes. If you see James taking 25, 30 shots, that means that other guys are not involved. And if other guys are not involved, that means he's too involved. And that what that could do is that could be a detriment to this unit. And I don't think James at this stage of his career, I don't think he's that ignorant to not recognize that, we're gonna go as far as Anthony Davis takes us, and he's gonna utilize him as much as he possibly can. Now to your Flip-Aside point, my nephew told me this. You are able to change your opinion provided new information. So
I was gonna say, OG, you know what? I had a feeling that you were gonna go that way, and you may not like this statement, but I've noticed it personally, of course, because like I mentioned when I was first starting my monologue of you and I have this rivalry when it comes to the Lakers, but I've noticed very, very nonchalantly that every time you come onto the show, you're a little bit more nice to the Lakers. Just a little bit more and more and more every time you come into the show.
Well, the reason why, and the reason
thinking, are you on the right side of history?
The reason why is because I look at Anthony Davis and I see what he looks like when he's healthy, and with the last time James and Anthony Davis were healthy, The NBA championship trophy was in Los Angeles.
The bubble. I get it.
So the last time he was healthy, and don't get me wrong, he played at an all-time great level. That's because James played off of him. And that was the plan right from the beginning. The problem was Anthony Davis broke down. That meant James had to get back to the dominant space, which meant James was breaking down faster. Had Anthony Davis held up, that meant that they would have been a lot better because James would have been playing off of him, which means other guys coming in, they would be playing off of him as well. So now we're at a point where Anthony Davis is healthy, and I've seen what he looks like when he's healthy. He looks so much better, and we could run this thing through him. If he can hold up, I think they got just as good a shot as anybody.
Dehls,
but that's pick? A scary game. That's a scary game if you want to play that with AD. We talked about the last time you were on here because AD has games where he's dominant and he looks like the best player on the court, and there's games where he's passive and he's not aggressive enough. I mean, his last 4 or 5 games, he has 2 games over 20 points. The other 3 games are like under 18 points. Like we've seen this very recently. I know he went on the stretch towards the end of the season where he was averaging like 30 over a couple week or maybe a month phase, but these last few games, he really hasn't been that type of guy. And maybe I'm nitpicking there, but that is the game you play when you have to run through Anthony Davis. You have to hope he comes out every night and is that aggressive type player, which we know can sway time to time. I do think the Lakers lucked out in this series. I do think the Grizzlies is the perfect matchup for them outside of maybe the Clippers without Paul George being healthy, because I worry for the Lakers if they go up against a high-powered offense just getting shot off the court. The Lakers are not a good three-point shooting team. They're really not a great offensive team. They're going to live and die by their defense. Their defense has been great. And more than anything, their defense is timely, I think, more than consistent. The first 3 quarters of that Timberwolves game, you could say, oh, they shot 50% from 3. They were getting wide open shots a lot of the time. A lot of the time, LeBron was leaving Taurean Prince open, and he was making those shots, right? So I know we could sit there and say like, oh, this is never going to happen again. But there's times where the Lakers are not locked in defensively, and that's why you could have these outlier type games when NBA players are getting open shots, they're going to be hitting those. And then we saw in the fourth quarter in that overtime period when the Lakers really did lock in, that's when we saw the Timberwolves go absolutely cold. Two field goals in 11 minutes. And those 2 field goals was an Ant Edwards open, fast break dunk. No one was in front of him. And the other one was an Ant Edwards layup with 30 seconds left in overtime. The game was over. The Lakers absolutely locked up. Part of that is their defense. Part of that is also the Timberwolves at the end of that game had no offense and really couldn't get anything going. But for this series against the Grizzlies, I do have the Grizzlies winning in 6 games. The Lakers, without a doubt, have a chance. I could see them winning this because of the offensive struggles the Grizzlies could go through at times. You do have the big 3 of Ja, Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. And I know a lot of people talking about Steven Adams and Brandon Clark. I think Brandon Clark is the bigger loss. Steven Adams is going to give you some spurts for 6 minutes here and there, but you're probably not closing with him. He has trouble shooting a free throw. He's got trouble. He could get played off the court essentially on the defensive side and offensive side. Doesn't, obviously give you any sort of, spacing or anything like that. But this Lakers team matches up well with the Grizzlies. I think if you're a Lakers fan, there's ways like Drew did, you could talk yourself into winning this series. My biggest concern is I don't know if I have seen the Lakers play 48 minutes of consistent basketball on both ends of the court against a legitimate team. They've done it against some banged up Grizzlies teams. They've done it against the Rockets. They've done it against the Bulls, and it was only one time. The other time they lost it. I struggle seeing the Lakers doing this consistently for a 7-game series. If they do this, this is the first time we're really going to be seeing it all season long. I mean, I know they went on that win streak, and the last month through the season they've been playing really well. But I look
one of the
at
best
the
teams post trade
deadline. I know Joel mentioned it. The competition really isn't there. I mean, they have not gone up against a team that you could look at and say, wow, this was a statement win where the Lakers dominated for 48 minutes and they were without a doubt the better team. There's moments where they do it. There's quarters that they do it, halves that they do it. But to win a 7-game series against the Grizzlies, especially when you don't have home court advantage, as Joel mentioned previously, I have a hard time thinking the Lakers could just flip that switch right away, especially when you rely heavily on Anthony Davis on both ends of the court, how brittle he could be at times. LeBron just isn't the same offensive engine as OG mentioned 5 or 6 years ago. He's still phenomenal without a doubt. But I have trouble trusting the Lakers for this consistent amount of time. I don't see it happening.
I want to really quickly reiterate my point, how I feel about Anthony Davis when he's healthy. Now, when he's not, and that's the thing that, like you just mentioned, That's the thing that I'm concerned with. I'm not sure if he's going to hold up. If he could hold up, that's the only thing that's holding me up with the Lakers. I think they're a semifinals team at best, and I don't think Anthony Davis is going to hold up. If he can hold up, though, I think we're talking about something completely different.
Last thing I want to say, since Steven Adams went down, the Grizzlies are 20-17. That is a huge – listen, I'm with you. Brandon Clark was a loss, a huge one. But we cannot forget the fact that Steven Adams going down provides them with limited rebounding.
That's also
and limited size.
Like 10 of
It's
those
also,
games.
yeah, I mean, we have to, yeah, I think that regular season
20-17?
Regular season sample sizes at the end of the year, they aren't a great indicator of.
No, Joe, that doesn't work because you just mentioned that after the All-Star break, this is what they've done after the All-Star break. This is what this team has done after this. No, so you can that logic doesn't work. No, so the Lakers are 15-7. Even with the win-loss record, that's because of what their defense is. That's because of what their offense is or what kind of distributor they have. So the Lakers at 15-7 since the All-Star break, they're number 3 in the league in defense. I mean, I think that has a lot to do with it. So the fact that go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, OG.
So the fact that Steven Adams is off the floor, that's affecting their defense. So if he was on the floor, that 20-17, if he was on the floor, might be 22-15. It might be 26-9, something like that. So I think those things do matter, especially going into the playoffs.
The reason I disagree is because last year the Warriors had a bad record in the second half of the season, and they won the NBA championship. There's a lot of.
They were healthy. They
and
all came together at the right time.
The Grizzlies were not healthy. They were,
but they're going to continue to not be healthy.
But they have Ja.
But Ja, yes, understand that. But Ja wasn't out for 37 games.
But he was out for a bunch of those games.
Again, I gave you 37 games as a sample size. It's
in
not
the
like
in the second half of the season. Yes.
Ja be missing games, bro. Ja be on some weird shit. He'll play one to not play. He be missing games.
And also, we also have to take into account that the Grizzlies to end the season, the last 2-3 weeks, were basically rolling out lineups out there that are not their playoff lineup.
Yeah,
Kenneth Lofton was getting 30+ minutes. I mean, or he had 42 points.
Is he going to play in the playoffs? Is he a part of their rotation?
He's eligible. Not sure if he's going to get minutes, but he is.
I don't know.
I'm hoping we get a John Conchar appearance because he can provide some good minutes off the bench.
For the Grizzlies specifically, with the Ja stuff going on, and with the fact that really they've just been waiting to get to the postseason. I don't take into account that the Lakers sample size to me. It is meaningful to me because this is their new look team for sure. But the Grizzlies, I just don't think I can judge their end of the season in the playoffs.
I gave you 37 games. I just think
Steven Adams is more built for a regular season than the playoffs.
He is, without a doubt.
So losing him in a regular season is far more important in terms of the playoffs. We've seen he can get played off the floor.
Like I'd love to see how many of those games Ja participated in and didn't out of the 37.
12 at least. But Steve-O makes Ja better in those snug pick and rolls or roll the screen and man, he gives Ja an open lane, the offensive rebounding. They're going to miss him because if Jaren gets in foul trouble, this is over.
Now, OG, you said Grizzlies in 5. If it goes longer, it's Lakers. So what do you think it's going to go?
I think if it's going to go 7, I'm picking the Lakers. Okay. If we're in games, if we see a game 7, I'm picking the Lakers. I'm not picking the Grizzlies.
That's fair. And to give the Lakers credit, there's a world where their size, I really didn't give them any chance, but the size mismatch is definitely there. I mean, outside of, I'm trying to think, Jaren Jackson, everyone else on that Grizzlies rotation, you're talking about like 6'7" and under. And the Lakers, they got 5-6 guys who are 6'8", 6'9", and taller. And then rebounding, the Lakers have been one of the best rebounding, top 2 on the season in terms of rebounding percentage. And the Grizzlies are bottom 10. So the Lakers, there's a way they could win this series. I think a lot of it's going to be ugly. It's going to be defense, offensive rebounding. I think that's the way they get it done. I have a hard time thinking, they're going to outshoot them or be able to offensively outscore them. It's going to be offensive.
It's not like the Grizzlies are this great shooting team either. They're not this great.
No, they're not.
Team.
They're not. Well, since they got Kennard, obviously have improved, but they're definitely not.
We'll see if he stays on the court because defensively he's a liability.
He's against the Lakers. We'll be fine.
You can put him on Dennis Schroeder and be fine.
We'll be fine.
He'll be good. He'll be good.
Okay, I'm just making sure. You said
not on actions. He will not be fine.
He's going to have to play though. He's too important to the rotation.
I think if you put him on Schroeder, he'll be fine.
You put him on whoever's in the corner. Honestly, you just put him on whoever's in the corner.
You can't hide him in the
as best as
playoffs.
you can.
You can't hide him in the playoffs.
Roman, so I think you could.
Dude,
Now,
if
this is the thing.
Take him one-on-one. Go ahead, man.
Most of the reason why I have the Grizzlies, and we're gonna move on, of course, is because in with the new and out with the old.
That's just ugly.
It's just about time. I mean, listen.
No, are you on that? Are you on that?
Listen, OG.
He's the fucking worst.
Listen, OG.
I know where this is going.
Regular season matters. Continuity matters.
Yes, it does.
If you've been a great team all season, I'm going to take you over a team who's been great for 20-something games because you have been. The Grizzlies they have been climbing year in and year out. I think Adams and Clark's absence will affect them later in the playoffs, but not in the first round because they're ready for this match. There's a reason why Dillon Brooks said, I want LeBron because we want to make him lose 2 playoff rounds in the first round. We want to do that. Dillon Brooks is ready. You better believe he's ready for that match.
Calm it down.
You better believe Dillon Brooks is ready.
Stop.
Now,
no, you're not convincing anyone with this tone of voice.
Well, listen, Dillon Brooks is that guy.
Yes.
Respect.
He is that guy to throw a monkey wrench in everything that you're trying to do because he's that guy who'll get kicked out of a game. He's that guy who'll get a technical foul, which will change momentum in the series. He's that guy. Don't make it sound like.
Don't forget, he's also the kind of guy that would just chuck up a shot for no reason. A shot that you're like, oh my God, Dillon Brooks, why'd you do that?
Yeah,
that's him. Don't forget that.
But I say in with the new and out with the old because the Kings versus the Warriors, 3 versus 6. The Kings are plus 220, the biggest top 3 seed underdog in the last 35 years. I'm thinking about the storylines in the series. Mike Brown versus Steve Kerr. Underdog team versus established dynasty. Listen, I'm going with the Kings in 7, goddammit, because regular season continuity matters. I do believe it.
That's what it sounds like, Drew.
You're all welcome. Boys, you're all welcome because I called his ass out. Yeah. He was disheartened by the response that it received, and now he had to convince himself, no, I can't do this.
That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like.
This is
what you're trying to convince us.
This what happened. I'm gonna tell all you guys a story right now, right quick.
Yes, sir.
There are some times when things first happen, you look at it and kind of take a step back a little bit, right? That was me with dogs when I was little. I used to be very scared of dogs, but as I grew, I started to, pet them and get more friendly with them, and now dogs love me.
Right.
When I first saw the Kings and Warriors matchup, I was scared of the Warriors. This is an established dynasty. This is a team that just won a championship. But then I locked myself in a closet where I have my film on my computer, a lot of 80s stuff. And I'm watching the film closely, eyes glued onto the screen. And I watched the Kings and Warriors matchups. They've had 4 matchups this year. The last one didn't really matter. I think the 2 in the middle were the ones that mattered to me the most. And it was 1-1. And in the first game, the Kings dominated the game the most of it, but the Warriors are like the Chiefs of the NBA. They can play sluggish for 45 minutes. They can look out of it for the entire game, but then all it takes is that one offensive possession, that 3-minute stretch for the Warriors to just win. You could win the entire game, but the Warriors win the last 2 minutes and they win, and that's why they're so scary. But I was watching the film and I said, you know what? I trust the Kings. I like the Kings. They've played together all year long. Continuity like that matters to me. Andrew Wiggins coming back. We'll see if it's on a minutes restriction. Gary Payne II. He's coming off of injury. And I look at the matchups really, and home court advantage matters. The Warriors are 11-30 on the road. The only teams that were worse were the Pistons, Rockets, and Spurs. The Kings were an okay home team, but they're better on the road. They're 25-16 on the road, the best road record in the NBA. And the Kings on the road have the 8th best defensive rating. The Warriors on the road have the 28th best defensive rating. They're one of the worst defenses on the road in the NBA. These are the key matchups I look at. Turnovers. Warriors are 30th in turnovers per game at 15.7. The Kings get in transition at the 3rd highest rate and are 9th in points per possession in transition. And in the fourth quarter, listen, Steph Curry, it's hard to bet against Steph Curry. But with the Kings, I have the clutch player of the year, De'Aaron Fox. I have De'Aaron Fox who, at least this year, when we talk about fourth quarter, Warriors versus Kings, the Kings have been better in the fourth. I think every game this series will be close, and I trust the Kings to close out these games more. The Sacramento Kings, the underdog Kings, I trust them. And I just think it's about time, OG. that somebody puts an end to this dynasty. It's about time somebody puts a goddamn hammer with the nail and nails this dynasty shut. And why not the goddamn Kings?
I do think you're onto something. Only except I don't think it's going to be these guys. That's the part that I'm not getting. But keep going. I'm sorry.
After the Warriors lose, we're not sure what's happening with Draymond. I mean, Draymond has been the glue, man. If he goes, I think this is actually shut. I have the Kings in 7. I think home court's going to matter. I think both teams take care of home court. And if not, I think both teams will steal one on the road. It's going to 7, and I have the Kings in 7, the Bean team. I have them at home in front of their fans. The playoff tickets are so expensive to get into. I have them winning this game.
I would normally
look sick.
I would normally say in this particular situation about a road team that's bad, but just so you know, Sacramento is basically Jersey City to Trenton. It's right there. It's not that far. So it's almost a home game for the Warriors. It's not that big a deal for them. That's number one. Number two, with the Sacramento Kings having the number 1 offense in the game, and I think they play at number 2 in the league in pace. Well, the Golden State Warriors know for a fact we can't get into that kind of fast game with them the entire game. These guys are going to run us out of the arena. So what are the Warriors going to do? The Warriors, Steve Kerr does a great job at making you defend in stretches. We all know that the Sacramento Kings are not a very good team defensively. So what we're going to do is we're going to make these guys defend. We're going to make them defend in stretches. What that's going to do, that's going to slow their transition game down. Well, when it slows their transition game and makes them play more in the half court, that's going to help us out, because now what we're going to do when we stop them, we're going to speed the game up. And when we speed the game up, that's going to get them off balance, and that's going to help us out tremendously. So when we get late into the series, I favor more experience than I favor youth, because I go back to the 2012 NBA Finals when I think about how good the Oklahoma City Thunder were, and I'm thinking to myself, can you give me the last time a team that was headed by kids won the NBA championship? And I couldn't do it. So I feel the same way with the Golden State Warriors. As long as they can keep this series close and they can keep these guys slowed down, as opposed to getting into a track meet with the Sacramento Kings, I think for certain that the Golden State Warriors are going to beat them. So when you talk about a guy like Draymond Green doesn't have to be great. No, he doesn't have to be great offensively, but he does a great job in moving the basketball. They do a great job in keeping you on the defense. Sabonis, he's going to also be a guy that they're going to target with their offense, making him play defense, which is going to keep him off the backboard nearly as much as they would like him to be. So there are guys like that are going to help them. So when I think about the Golden State Warriors, I think that they could very well outsmart them, and I think Steve Kerr could outcoach Mike Brown.
I think you make a lot of valid points. I'd combat that by saying this. The Kings half-court offense is one of the best in the NBA. Mm-hmm. So I think even if they play a slow-down game in the half-court, the Kings will be fine, because offensively, they're great in transition, they're great in the half-court, and they run the same offense as the Warriors, these split cuts, and when that doesn't work, they just give it to Sabonis in the post. Mm-hmm. I just feel like this is going to be a special series. I think everybody on the Kings is going to shoot the lights out of the ball. Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray, Malik Monk off the bench. I think all these guys are really going to come to play and really going to show out. And just because I think there's just a chip on their shoulder. And I trust Mike Brown to diagnose a defensive game plan in the series. You know, he made a lot of adjustments in the Warriors finals run last year, and he was very stout in that. And who knows the Warriors better personnel-wise than Mike Brown, who's been there for the last couple of years.
Rev, you don't like that, huh, Rev?
My biggest concern is Sabonis and drop. I think Sabonis, there was too many times when I watched their games and matchups this year where Sabonis is just too late to Steph Curry on these screens. That, to me, is worrisome. And even when you play up on Steph Curry, it just opens up the floor for everybody else. So defensively, I think there's a lot of question marks for sure, but the Kings defend well in stretches. In the fourth quarter, they're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. So I think that they'll take this series.
Riv, I know you want to go, but what I have to do might be nasty. And it might qualify me for the nasty award of the year.
I just want to say this is the greatest flip he's ever done.
And you know what? I'm glad.
It's not a flip. It's not a flip.
This man told me yesterday.
It's not a flip.
Riv, before you go,
just yesterday, Riv, like not last week.
No, it was 2 days ago. It was 2 days ago. It was 2 days ago.
Riv, I'm so happy that you did this, because I have something to read. Ultimately, my teams that come out of the West are the Suns or Nuggets. at the end of the day, I'm going to be right by picking Golden State. Because when we tally up at the end of the playoffs, who was right the most, y'all not going to give me my brownie points for picking the Kings. You're just going to say I was wrong. I'd rather be right. And based off the matchups I saw this morning, it's just going to be very difficult for the Kings to win. I'm a film watcher, and my picks are based on film.
I believe the young people call those receipts right there.
So
that's a receipt.
That's a receipt.
Listen, I want to get OG's perspective on this. OG, that was sent 3 days ago.
You told me you watched the film, and the film told you Golden State.
Can I not rewatch it again? Can I not rewatch the film again? Can I not rewatch games? Can I not rewatch games and look at stats and try to make my opinion like that?
Look, you have John in hell.
Hold up.
Flip his side to third. I did not know. Look at him. He's destroyed.
John's gonna have a stroke. You're gonna give John a stroke. That's what you're gonna do.
I did not know that you're not allowed to change your pick before series started. If the series had started and I'm like, I got the Kings, I agree with you. It hasn't started yet. I am allowed to change my opinion all I want. If I want tomorrow, before I wake up before the series, I want to bet on Warriors, I'll do that.
Pick somebody, Joe. Okay, enough of the flip-flopper, Joe. Pick somebody.
I'm picking the Sacramento Kings, the beam team. That's who I'm picking.
Listen, go ahead, Ray. I just need to make sure the receipts were out.
You sure you're not going to bet on the Warriors tomorrow and not tell us until they win and they'd be like, I bet on the
will.
It'll be seconds before the ball's about to go up. Seconds before the ball's about to go up. Warriors in 6.
Listen,
and he closes out Twitter.
It's not even worth it to bet on the Warriors. It's not even worth it. You're not going to get anything for your money. They're like minus 200.
That's the fact.
Rav, do you want to go or do you want me to just continue?
John's gonna have a stroke.
You can go
right now. So
when one of your disciples is having a coronary, that's when you know you got an issue. So for me personally, Joel, you said a lot of great things about the Kings. I'm with you. One of the best offense in the league, both points per game, offensive rating. You mentioned the tempo. OG, they play at extremely fast pace. They know they have this offense down to a science. It's Sabonis controlling the offense, really getting everybody involved, and then come fourth quarter time, it's De'Aaron Fox time. He takes over. That's a reason why that's going to be one of my all-NBA players. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, it's the Golden State Warriors. I'm sorry. I hear myself echoing. Is someone listening to me talk? Or is that just me?
No. By the way, this was the first matchup, this chart right here. Okay, the Kings are the purple.
While I'm talking, I appreciate
second matchup.
Looks like the Warriors won when it mattered.
That's what I'm saying. They're the Chiefs of the NBA, but the Kings will win. The Kings will win when it matters in the playoffs.
That's why one team has a 16-year drought and the other has 4-9 because when they win when it matters.
They have De'Aaron Fox, baby.
To continue, yes, the Kings had the most points per game offensively. Number 2, the Golden State Warriors. Now, another thing you didn't mention, because all you mentioned was offense. They're going to knock down shots nonstop. What you didn't mention was how poor their defense is. They're 24th in defensive rating. And where the Warriors have not been this stout defense that we've seen, that we've known the Warriors to be over these years of them being the dynasty, that's also in due part to Andrew Wiggins not being around. Now Andrew Wiggins is cleared. Yes, you mentioned the minutes restriction. We'll see what's going on. It wasn't due to an injury, I don't believe. So now it's just going to be a matter of getting himself back acquainted with the team. So, and especially if he's going to be off the bench, it's going to be very interesting to see what Golden State does with Andrew Wiggins himself. But regardless of that fact, you said it very perfectly about the Grizzlies and the Lakers, that this isn't the regular season, this is the playoffs. And I just feel like, you just need to be a little bit more reversed, because I agree with that in this sense where it's the playoffs, where that's why come playoff time, I'm going to ride with LeBron and AD. Come playoff time, I'm just going to have to ride with Golden State, understanding that they're the more experienced team. OG says it every time he's here. Until somebody knocks them off, it's hard to count them out. Of course, I'm with that same belief. The Golden State Warriors simply are too good. And I believe that offensively, that yes, the Kings are the better offense statistically, but offensively, the Warriors can't keep up. And defensively, I'm taking the Warriors.
Well, defensively, the Warriors have been great at home, but they've been one of the worst on the road. The Kings at home have been bad defensively. They've been great on the road. It's kind of like the same thing flipped.
No,
it is.
Do the Kings have Draymond Green?
No. It's my time.
Do the Warriors have Domantas Sabonis?
I was gonna say, Riv, you've been patient. Go ahead, cook up.
Do the Warriors have Keegan Murray?
Enough.
The best rookie shooter in the history of the NBA.
Enough.
Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
Enough, please.
Kevin Huerter can outmatch Klay Thompson's production.
Be serious.
Is Kevin Huerter going to play as good as Jordan Poole, Riv?
That's his mic, bro.
He'll be better.
Listen.
Malik Monk will be better than Jordan Poole.
Mute his mic.
Malik Monk will be better than Jordan Poole.
Mute his mic.
Good God, mute his mic. Listen, enough's enough. This shit, the jig is up. It was a nice storyline. It was a cute season. Drew, you mentioned that you said something you said something that was interesting to me. They haven't been the same team as they have been before. I disagree. I just think they've been inconsistent because I think if you look at what they've been at home, they've been a top elite defense at home. They've been an elite offense at home. They've been just great at home. And then on defense, flip side. So I think that's more towards inconsistency, which is it's not common to see a team with this much experience be inconsistent. Even like you said, Wiggins missed time, but I've been watching this team all year. They was doing that shit before Wiggins went down. So this has been a recurring thing from start to finish. They've just been inconsistent. But the one thing you hope for this team is the experience makes them flip it and turn it on. I look at this series, and this is all trolling aside. I think the Kings are a really good team. I think offensively, they give a lot of team fits. They run the same stuff that Steve Kerr runs. And we know about the Steve Kerr offenses. It's one of the hardest things to defend if you don't have the right personnel. And that is the problem in this series. I think that's what Joel's not looking at. The right personnel to guard a Steve Kerr system, the Warriors have. The Kings don't. And that's the problem. Steve Kerr has bodies. It may not have shown in the statistics this year, but Steve Kerr has bodies. He has GP. He has DiVincenzo. He has Wiggins. He has Kuminga. He has literally our era's defender in Draymond Green. And when you have those five guys, that's a tough task. And then on the other side, the Kings just don't have enough bodies. Davion Mitchell's a really good defender. He's 6'2". And even then,
his offense is limited.
DiVincenzo's 6'3".
I understand what you're saying. Steph Curry can easily get a switch off him, see Sabonis, and drop. And Sabonis just doesn't have the foot speed to keep up in those pick and rolls. And I think that's going to be a serious issue. You mentioned that stat. You finally watched those 3 games. I've been watched those 3 games, so I've been ahead of the curve before you. I've seen those 3 games already. And what I think was
Rav, that was rude. That was unnecessary.
Because I watched this team. I watch them, so I've been ahead of the curve.
So Riv, how about you tell me in the third matchup the Kings won. In the second matchup, the Kings were leading the entire game.
And what happened?
And the Kings, when Kevin Huerter shot a game-time 3-point shot, Klay Thompson fouled him, and they did not call it. You remember that, don't you?
So you
remember that, Riv. They fouled him.
Wait. Joel, what? Let's stop. Let's stop with excuses.
Kevin Huerter was going to make the shot. You know that.
The Kings were great for second quarters and third quarters. What happened in the fourth quarter when it really mattered? What team showed you that?
What do you mean?
The lights are bright?
I have the graph. They barely
outplayed them in the fourth quarter. Anymore. I don't want to see it anymore.
Drew, can you handle that graph? Drew, can you handle this graph, Drew? Yes or no? Can you handle this graph?
No,
Drew, can you handle this graph right
here?
The
Warriors were better for this much. The Kings were better the entire fourth. What are we talking about?
The Warriors were better. The Warriors were better when it mattered. And that's the most important part. This team is.
You mean when the refs mattered?
Now you want to
blame the refs called BS fouls. I understand.
Joel, pull up the graph one more time, just one more time, bro. Really, please.
I deleted it.
Thanks,
you deleted it.
What are you doing, John? What are you doing, John?
I think though, like OG mentioned though, this isn't a typical road home trip. Like these teams are an hour away from each other. Like they're going to be fans in Golden State. They're going to be fans in Sacramento. This is, I don't know. The home crowd is going to be very, very funny. It's going to be like,
will travel better.
I don't know. A team with 4 rings in 9 years tells me differently. But you know what? Whatever floats your boat, floats your boat. That means they would travel better. But you know what? Whatever floats your boat, floats your boat. Ultimately, I have the Golden State Warriors in 6 games. I think they steal a game. I think they split right here in Sacramento. I think they go back. Golden State handles the business at home 2 games. I think they lose game 5 in Sacramento, and Golden State ultimately ends it in game 6. I feel like offensively, defensively, Andrew Wiggins coming back is going to be huge. This isn't a regular. Absolutely. He's coming back and he's had injuries. No, this is just he's coming back. He didn't get hurt. So obviously the stamina isn't going to be there right away, but there should be no lapse in the defense. He knows the system. This is a guy, Steve Kerr and Mike Brown. I understand people want to love the chess match, but Steve Kerr knows everything Mike Brown's going to throw at him. Mike Brown knows everything Steve Kerr. The difference is Steve Kerr has an equalizer. Steve Kerr has arguably a top 3 player of his generation. Steve Kerr has Steph Curry, a man who has no weakness in his game. There's no counter for him, and the Kings don't have nothing for that. De'Aaron Fox, as great as he is, there is bodies for Steve Kerr to throw at him. There is boxing ones that Steve Kerr uses, 2-3 zones, 3-2 zone. Steve Kerr uses a lot of defensive schemes.
Boxing one on a great shooting team.
Yeah, boxing one's not going to be it.
I'm just naming things he's used. I'm just naming things.
And he stole from Mike Brown. That's Mike Brown. Those Mike Brown stuff.
Right. He was the defensive coordinator. He was.
And I agree with you. And now Steve Kerr has the same pieces with that same playbook. Mike Brown is a defensive coach who pretty much flipped the switch. Pretty much flipped the switch with offense. And now his defense is like that. But that's just because he doesn't have the personnel. I think the Kings give you, they're all defensively. They're just not that good right now. But I think I got the Warriors in 6.
Now, John, I feel betrayed by you, friend. But go.
It's been a great year for the Kings.
This guy.
Their offense is a mismatch for any team. But to act like Mike Brown's going to solve guarding Steph Curry when we've had questions about a guy like Marc Gasol, defensive player of the year, guarding Steph and drop coverage is irresponsible. Shout out to Jordan Davis. I think it's an irresponsible take to not talk about Domantas Sabonis enough. And now he's really hopeless defensively versus Warriors team. But there's also another element to the series. Gary Payton's probably going to play a lot. I think we're going to see less of Jordan Poole in this matchup. And this Warriors defense of Draymond Green is the best possible matchup for Domantas Sabonis. Because the best way to guard Sabonis is playing physical. And you guys like to laugh at me all the time because you can't go right. I made that point before. Sure, that's part of it, but there's not a better big in the game to defend Domas than Draymond. And so if you're going to have Wiggins,
I don't think he's
going to come off the bench, probably play 20 minutes, but by the end of the series, Wiggins will be closer to that 30-minute per game shape. To expect Domantas to play at his best when Draymond Green's on the other side, and the Warriors just have Steph Curry, who the Kings have no answer for, it's irresponsible to have them win the series. Now, I think they're going to take 2 games. I also, Riv, had this going to 6 with the Warriors winning. But there's no way there's no way the Kings can defend the Warriors. But I'm pretty confident the Warriors defense can keep up with the Kings offense. We saw last year, they, against the Boston Celtics, broke that team apart, and that was the best offense in basketball the second half of the season. And defensively, the Celtics were also the best defense in the second half of the year, and the Warriors broke them apart. And that was with Robert Williams playing on one leg, sure, but Robert Williams is a lot more mobile and a lot better, just a little bit defensively than Domas. So it's been a great year in Sacramento, but I'm afraid this is where it ends, Joel.
Listen, John, the reason why people gave you shit about the Sabonis right take is because it was one of the worst takes in human history. You said that the key to stopping the first-ranked offense in NBA history is to force their best player or second best player right. Come on,
that's not what I said.
OG,
the clip, John, the clip got you.
OG, I want to ask you something, right? Because John over here
put it out there.
John over here says that, you know, Draymond, the best possible matchup for Sabonis. I agree, right?
I like
but
Mooney on.
You act like Sabonis is helpless. OG, let me rattle you off these numbers in the 3 matchups this season. Sabonis went for 26, 22, and 8, 19, 14, and 6, 19, 14, and 4. Does that sound like a player that's not playing well?
No, it doesn't.
It is the playoffs now. I just want you to know that.
It's the playoffs, and I think Sabonis will play well in the playoffs. Stats.
Yeah, you're
26, 22, and 8. Are we talking about? Okay, can we
for sure.
I understand Sabonis is not a good defender. He's going to have his moments for sure. He's the best rebounder in the league. Against a Warriors team that's small, Sabonis is going to dominate the glass. He had 22 rebounds.
He's going to dominate Kevin Looney on the glass? Really?
Yes, he's done it already. Okay, what are we talking about? He's done it already. Sabonis has done. He had 22 rebounds against them. What are we talking about?
Joel, on that point, I'm with you. I think that Sabonis
is leading the league in rebounds, bro. He is one of the best facilitators in the NBA at his position. Mm-hmm. I think that you're underselling Sabonis. Maybe the Warriors win, but it's not because Sabonis is going to wet the bed like you think he is.
Agreed. I mean, defensively, he's going to be a problem for them.
The same way a small ball lineup of Steph and Poole will be a problem for Golden State. For Golden State, it's a problem.
Wait, why would it be a problem? Because Kevin Huerter?
Because of the actions the Kings run.
You think that would be a serious problem?
I think that is a problem.
Problematic as
the
Sabonis?
The Kings don't match up Hunt, but they're the best offense rated in NBA history for a reason. Their offense is going to be tough as hell to stop too. It's going to be a battle of 2 amazing offenses. And it's going to come down.
Yeah, because they're the best. But who knows the system? The literal Warriors. That's the system they have.
Mike Brown knows it too. He literally implements
it. Different, but what you're not you're not processing because you're just looking at those regular season games. You're not processing the regular season, the playoffs. There's a switch the Kings have no ability to switch because they've never been there.
You don't know that. Though.
Number two, no,
you're
you don't
assuming
know.
they don't.
Number two,
you're assuming they don't.
You're not processing the fact that the Warriors have literal bodies and the Kings do not have bodies to throw at Steph Curry. They don't have any defense.
Who do they have?
DiVincenzo
is not a body to throw on Fox. I'm sorry, he's not. DiVincenzo is not somebody I trust on Fox.
Gary Payton Jr. is not a champ.
Gary Payton will not. Fox will have his way with anybody.
Fox is gonna get his.
He's the clutch player of the year. Let's respect De'Aaron Fox. You've been disrespecting
Fox
him for years now.
thing.
This is his time now, so you better respect Fox.
Okay, first of all, you did all that yelling, and I said they have bodies. I didn't say Fox was going to get locked up. I didn't say that one time.
To make it hard on him is different. Yeah, to make it hard on him.
I didn't say they have bodies.
Yeah,
you don't have a body. You don't have a body to stop Steph Curry.
Davion Mitchell, De'Aaron Fox.
Look what you're saying.
Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray's a good defender. What are you talking about?
Steph? Keegan
yes,
Murray?
That's going to be the
rookie?
Harrison Barnes is a good defender.
That's the issue. That's the issue.
Trey Lyles is going to Trey Lyles.
This is an unserious conversation.
He's going to play some good minutes.
Trey Lyles, Steph Curry.
I just think that I'm not even thinking about Steph Curry one-on-one. I'm just thinking about how that offense is constructed and how it's ran. I just think that a lot of action off the basketball, that's going to wear down the Kings. It's just particularly one guy. And if Sabonis is going to be in drop coverage, when he's in drop coverage against Draymond Green, and Draymond Green is setting screens, Klay Thompson is cracking the long ball. Steph Curry is cracking the long ball. Jordan Poole is cracking the long ball. That opens up the offense for these guys so much more. So now when Sabonis can no longer be in drop coverage, now that brings him away from the basket and he can't rebound as much. And that's going to be an even bigger problem for Sacramento because they rely on him solely to speed up their transition game because he rebounds. And when he's not able to do that, that makes it even more difficult on them.
The Kings have no secondary rim protection if he's out in space. Klay Thompson this year just made a career high in 3-pointers. So in those Jordan Poole minutes, if they go at that death jail lineup, whatever it is, if he's out 15, 20 feet away from the rim, you better hope Keegan Murray does that rebound stuff you're praising.
Wiggins is a 39% three-point shooter.
Keegan Murray's going to guard Steph too. Listen, Joel, I think I'm not going to get as disrespectful as John. Because they got a puncher's chance. Number one offense in NBA history. I got to give you a puncher's chance in this series. But it's really hard for me to look at this series, Kings versus Warriors. It's just a big bro, little bro matchup. That's all this is. I know a lot of people.
That was worse than what John said.
That was rude.
But that's what it is.
That was rude.
That's what it is. And not in the sense that the Kings don't have talent. But if you look at this matchup, not only just the Mike Brown connection, obviously both teams in California, just an hour away, how the teams are constructed. But you also have kind of these two opposites here, right? You have the Kings, which it feels like anything that could have possibly went right for the Kings this season has gone right. You mentioned it. All the continuity. Keegan Murray coming in as a rookie, being the best three-point shooting rookie of all time. De'Aaron Fox being the first-time clutch player of the year. Sabonis having an all-NBA type season. Everything that could have gone right for the Kings went right. And for the Warriors, it feels like damn near everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. You have the Draymond punch in the offseason. You have Steph Curry getting hurt. Wiggins sitting the last 20, 30 games of the season. Jordan Poole being inconsistent compared to last year after you give him this huge contract. So you have basically everything going right for the Kings. The Warriors at this point, everyone's maybe overlooking them a bit, down them a bit. There's more questions this year for the Warriors team than there has been in previous outside the couple bubble years or the playing years that they had, at least years they were actually competing for a championship. So I look at this team and the veteran leadership that the Warriors have, but I think more than anything, it's just defensively because I don't know where you're getting your numbers from, Joel. I do not have a stretch for the Kings at damn near any point in the season I could point at and say, this is what I can look at and say the Kings locked up here.
On the road, they're 8th in defensive rating.
On the road.
I think defensive rating is such a small margin, man. I'm not a fan of defensive rating as much, man. I'm just not.
I have a legit starting five I could look at no matter what, and they were the
best
starting five.
Best
starting five defensive unit in the league. And we know historically they could do that too. So I think that's easily the biggest deciding factor in this. And it's almost similar to almost exemplified actually when we talked about the Dallas and Kings series where it's like, I know the Kings get a couple more stops than the Mavericks. I know the Warriors to get a hell of a lot more stops than the Kings. That's why I feel a lot more confident in this series picking the Warriors. The Kings got a chance. They could shoot the lights out and they could put up 130 a game. And the Warriors just going to, have to outshoot them at that point. But I think in a 7-game series, a lot of pressure can be on the Kings first time making the playoffs in so long. I have faith that, the Kings are going to make it tight. It's going to be a close series. I think it could go 6 or 7 games. But once you get into that, really do or die situation, how am I going to overlook Steph Curry and the Warriors team? Listen,
Dehls, I understand why they kicked your ass in the finals.
Here we go.
It makes sense. You're a smart dude. You're very non-biased, at least when it doesn't come to the Celtics. So I appreciate that. You made an interesting point. Things have went right for the Kings, while things have went wrong for the Warriors all year. That's why I'm going to bet on things continuing to go right for the Kings and things continue to go wrong for the Warriors. I'm bet on that. Listen, Drew, I understand you exposed me on Twitter by, posting that little TikTok clip. I appreciate you for that, brother, because that clip made me realize all the Kings fans that were disappointed in me when I picked the Warriors. So they looked at me and I was like the captain looking at my soldiers. I was the captain. Man, I don't know if I'm ready for this war, but my soldiers were ready to fight.
They were ready before you.
I looked at my soldiers and I said, you know what? Let's go fight. And that's why I'm going to fight. And let's go Kings and 7. We gonna win this series, baby.
Drew,
like the beam, baby.
Before you go, Drew, I just wanted to say 2 things. You mentioned the Kings, like Dehls. It's very interesting because it just popped into my head. Everything went right for the Kings this year. Everything went wrong for the Warriors. They have 4 less wins than the Sacramento Kings. They have the worst road record by all playoff teams in the league. They have 4 less wins than the Sacramento Kings. Joel mentioned something about continuity. I don't even know why he did that with this team because the starting 5 has been together for a couple years. GP just won a ring with us last year. Kuminga was here. Poole was here. The only new guy that's going to get consistent minutes is Dante DiVincenzo. So the continuity part was very wild to me because Golden State probably has the best continuity in terms of just guys gelling, guys knowing themselves from left to right. Guys knowing themselves like the back of their hand. So, but go ahead, Mr. Drew.
Oh, no, I already gave my spiel. I have Warriors winning in 6 games. I think that, yes, with all due respect to the Kings and what they've been able to accomplish this year, it's a credit to them. The fact that they broke their playoff drought, finally getting home court advantage, it's a credit to them. What they've done this season is great. But unfortunately, they're just seeing a team that has a little bit more experience and a little bit more complete on both sides.
Now, before we go on to the next playoff matchup, a quick word from Athletic Greens. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/pickaside. That's athleticgreens.com/pickaside. Check it out. It's a great comprehensive nutrition solution for $3 a day. Drew, I know it's been helping you a lot recently.
I'll tell you what was excellent. I actually posted on Twitter about me taking my Athletic Greens this morning, and Athletic Greens responded to me. It was pretty heartwarming. It felt great to have that acknowledgement, but absolutely. Athletic Greens, every single day I take Athletic Greens because I understand that it's beneficial for me, and that's really all it comes down to.
Now, hey, Drew, really quick. I just want to let you know because I know you got SGA as a first-team All-NBA performer. Just so you know, since the decade that I was born, which was in the 70s, it's only one guy who's been first-team All-NBA and his team didn't make the playoffs, and that's Anthony Davis, and he was an All-League defender. I just want to put that in mind.
OG, you know what's crazy, OG? When I tweeted, I said, there's no way you can put 2 losers on the All-NBA first team. I got hella flack by John.
I'm saying, it's only one guy.
Dame this, Dame that. Dame got shut down 3 weeks ago. Dame.
Since the decade that I was born, this goes back to Pistol Pete and guys like that were making first-team All-NBA. Anthony Davis is the only guy since the decade that I was born to be first-team All-NBA when he was in New Orleans, and he was also a first-team All-League defender too. So
I'd cook Pistol Pete.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen it since then.
Now look
at just so you know, Pistol Pete would have ate your lunch.
I didn't think you was gonna hear me because you was talking.
No. Pistol Pete would have ate your lunch, Rib. Kill it.
So would you have had Curry as the last or as the guy in the first team then?
I hate the fact that I already mentioned this. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I'm still trying to get a satisfactory answer on why Jaylen Brown isn't first team All-NBA.
Isn't
I know the whole forward logic, even though Jaylen Brown plays the 2, and he's played the 2. He's always played the 2. And I mentioned this in the past. I already went over this before. I don't know if you guys have heard it. There have been 8 guys, 8 duos since 1979 to be first-team All-NBA with 2 guys on the same team, right? That's Doc and Moses, Magic and Jabbar, Bird and McHale, Jordan and Pippen, Stockton and Malone, Kobe and Shaq, Stoudemire and Nash, and James and Anthony Davis. That's it. And only one guy, which is Kobe Bryant, averaged 27 and 7 as the number 2 guy. None of those other guys did. And Jaylen Brown, who was 27 and 7 on the team that got this, they forget being second place in the East. They got the second best record in the NBA. I was trying to get a satisfactory answer on why Jaylen Brown isn't first team All-NBA.
OG, you think Jaylen Brown had a better season than Donovan Mitchell?
I don't think that he's had a better season than Donovan Mitchell because that's one of the guards, no doubt about that. But it's 2 guards, and I'm trying to think to myself, who else is doing it like that and winning like he's doing
forward this year?
I think that's where that's probably where the problem is. That's probably where the problem is because Robbie Williams been in and out of the lineup. Because I'm thinking to myself, the number 2, 27 and 7. I mean, Scottie Pippen made first team All-NBA with Michael Jordan, and he was 17 a game.
Nasty.
I also think SG had a better season, and I understand the Celtics record part, but given the Thunder's expectations, I think what he did was impressive with that team.
That's exactly what it is too, and the fact that every single month of the season he ended up improving his points per game. Also, I mean, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt with that as well.
My perspective,
if he wins tonight, he get it,
no doubt.
Because they're in the playoffs. It's hard because they're in the playoffs. For that reason right there.
I think it comes down to who made a larger impact for their team. I think if you take Jaylen Brown off the Celtics, they'd still be a close to 51 squad. Mm-hmm. You take Damian Lillard, who had like a top 10, maybe top 5 season off the Blazers, and they're like
the same thing.
Win team.
If you take Dame off the team, they're a
the
lot
same exact. Yeah,
maybe.
maybe.
Games
they have way less. They're a lot of people.
John, they suck with Dame. They suck without. It's the same thing.
No.
They have a 119
worse.
They have a league offense with Dame, top 3.
What was the record? What was the record?
Are they winning or not?
They were like a 13
500.
Yeah,
they're the first seed for a couple weeks.
That was from 1 month. Don't do that.
Yeah, that was November
with Josh Hart, and then Josh Hart goes to Knicks, and you disrespect Josh Hart.
No, that was when Josh Hart started tanking from 3, and they traded him. He couldn't make a shot.
Okay. So. Looking at these super chats, NPC Santos, join playback for the playoffs so you won't miss out on legendary moments with Pick a Side. It takes 60 seconds to make an account. Also, Drew, where's my jersey?
Drew, where's his jersey?
Santos is gonna have to wait till we link back up in this too.
Okay. Paul Murray, I hate that y'all were all right about my Pels losing, but sitting courtside to watch SGA cook was badass. Also, John is the GOAT, and stay cooking, y'all.
Fraudulent GOAT.
Paul Murray again. I appreciate John giving Omar Khan a shout out a few episodes back. Khan and Jamar Chase went to the same high school as me. Acri Bishop Rummel.
When did you do that?
Thanks for the donation, Paul.
The Steelers, and I said, you know nothing about the Cowboys.
Okay.
Cuba
the Steelers to a Super Bowl. So
Phoenix has to convert that CP3 money into 2 of the guys this offseason. If it were possible, I'd try to get a Fred VanVleet, Brooks, and or Kuzma.
First of all, Q, just so you know, Brooks, that money he's on the bench for, he's on the books for 2 more years at $40 million. That contract is toxic.
Fred VanVleet ain't it.
Fred VanVleet, you're not
cut him because his money's non-guaranteed.
They can't.
Now, Paul Murray, do y'all think Herb Jones could win DPOY?
I think he could. I think he could win it. I think Evan Mobley's going to win it though.
Yeah, not this year.
I think he's capable for sure. I'm not sure if he'll win it though, but he's.
If he develops a 3-point shot, he could one
day. Hey, Scotty Barnes fan down there, don't let Evan Mobley win DPOI. Oh shit!
Why?
Because
I've never been anti Evan Mobley a day in my life.
You said Scotty Barnes.
I never said that. I never said Giannis.
That was Joel.
I never said that, bro. I never said that.
Somebody lying. Who said?
You said something about Scotty Barnes.
No, I didn't.
No, I can clean it up. I said that I thought that Scotty Barnes was going to take a superstar leap this year because I was wrong. Yeah. But I never, ever, and don't you ever associate that statement with Andrew Velez, please.
Wait, I'm sorry, but
isn't that the same thing?
Is Giannis not a superstar? If Scotty Barnes takes a superstar
best in the game,
is he
the
not
best in the game?
A superstar means he's an all NBA player. You predicted Scotty Barnes to be an all NBA player this season.
So if anything, he's
not even an all-star.
The better statement would be like, oh, that's like saying that he could be SGA. because SGA took that superstar leap. He ended up becoming an all-NBA defender. Never in my right mind did I say that Scotty Barnes would be arguably the best player in the game.
I never said that. I said
he has the potential.
I said
he has the potential of Giannis Antetokounmpo.
I said his play style is similar to Giannis. Scotty Barnes' play style is similar to young Giannis.
Yeah, again, I'm going to trust my memory better than I trust yours.
Then again, you said superstar leap, and he wasn't an all-star. He was one of the worst starters in the league.
Yeah, I'm admitting it very openly. I was wrong about Scotty Barnes. Year 3, we're here.
Q Boogie Velez. This year, 80 averaged 29 and 20 versus the Grizz.
Yeah, bro. I wanted to get back to that. Xavier Tillman is not holding AD for not a second.
They're gonna double team.
This is why tracking matchup data matters, because yes, face value AD had 29 and 20, but versus Xavier Tillman in those matchups, he held them to 36% EFG.
Okay, dude, I'm telling you right now, that means not a damn thing to me, because in reality, you're saying that Jaren Jackson's going to play.
What's the sample size on that?
Davis.
Do you know how many shots that is?
Well, and not only that, how often is Tillman on the floor? Because if you holding him to 36% for 10 minutes or
in those
5
games,
minutes,
he played 30 minutes. There's 2 matchups.
Right. So he played 30 minutes. So that's almost the majority of the game.
And one of those, most of those without LeBron.
Even though Anthony Davis is still going, still going almost 30 and 20.
Well, the one thing though for certain is that Anthony Davis does settle for a lot of jump shots when guarded by Tillman. That is a fact.
AD does settle sometimes.
That can bring down his efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
AD needs to go straight to that block and get right in that paint. Fuck all the jumpers. We don't got time for that.
I suck toes. What's more likely, Lakers in 7 or Knicks in 7?
Be absolutely serious. It's Lakers
in 7.
Lakers.
Wait. Hold on. Look at this dude. Yeah, that dude right there. That one right there. Look at him. I know you want to say it, Joe. I know you do.
We're gonna wait for
oh God.
Q Boogavelli. Shout out to OG Jersey City legend.
It's a fact.
I don't know from all that, but
yeah, best.
That was the dude that asked me about St. Anthony's.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, best pod. Who you got 1v1, Tatum or Luka? I heard OG say the 96 Bulls are the best team ever, but the 2013 Heat would beat them? Question mark. What's up with that?
2013 Heat? I don't know about that one.
I never said that the 96 Bulls were the best team ever. In fact, I said that you can make an argument that the Jordan's 92 Bulls were better than that 96 Bulls team. So I never said that, number one. Number two, 2013 Heat against the 96 Bulls. Ooh, that would be a tough matchup. That would really be a tough matchup. But James, man, if you gave me the 92 Bulls, I'd have to go with them. But the 2013 Heat, I'm going with them.
Now, NBC Santos.
Lost me, OG.
Drew, respect John. Hashtag.
John, I've been wanting to address this, bro. It's come to my attention that I've been a little bit rude to you recently. I do want to formally apologize if that is the case. However, welcome to the show, kid. All right? That's all I'm going to say.
I'm not soft, so you can make fun of me.
Okay, good.
Brothers.
Drew, John, that hashtag started on a playback. You know, I told the
chat. It started on the playback when you were yapping about, the Wolves are going to win. Drew, get ready, bro. And then you ended up
the Lakers are winning that, bro.
Hamza Sahal. I can't wait for the T-Wolves to prove you guys wrong and make the Western Conference Finals.
That's the most dog shit take I've ever seen.
I'm not going that far easy. I actually had them as a top 5 seed before the season started.
We all did.
That was working.
Let Timberwolves fans have some, man. Come on.
Let's chill out with them being the West Finals, though. Let's chill out with that.
NPC Santos Warriors in 5.
That's possible.
Maybe.
Football CF Candy Riv. What's the best possible retool for Bulls? Is it Dame?
Why the fuck are we retooling? Rebuild. There's no retooling. There needs to be no retooling. Enough. Stop. We need to rebuild. Send everybody away.
Now, Austin Rich. Cavs over Knicks easy.
Not easy, but
it's not easy.
Let's jump right into it then.
Samir 60. Riv, thanks for being my hero. Grizzlies in 6.
Okay.
Casual.
NPC Santos. Mr. Flip Aside strikes again.
Yeah.
It's every episode.
Blake Bass. You guys are one of my favorite podcasts right now, and shout out to OG.
Thanks, brother.
You better respect Dehls. You learned that from me.
Oh.
You're learning your flip ways from me. And Drew can vouch.
Never have, never will.
Drew can vouch. Drew's on your ass now about that.
I am.
Never have, never will.
Now, Robert M_21. Yo, my first super chat. Shout out to that first super chat. And just wanted to say y'all are killing it with Pick a Side. Love watching you guys every time. Knicks in 7. This is a smart man right here. Very smart, man. Twisted Arcade. Who do you trust more in the playoffs this year? AD, who's a playoff superstar, or JoJo, the likely MVP?
I'm going AD.
Because I've seen it more.
Exactly.
AD's in a different role than Embiid, I feel like. So I'll go AD. I'll go AD.
Now, this is from Aiden Ramirez. I don't think a playing team is going to the finals. Sorry, Drew.
Oh, well, get ready for history. First time ever. Get ready for history.
Yeah, no way.
Now the last super chat, J.K. Felly 499. If you want to put in a comment, we'll have John start so we can read it, so you can get your money's worth off that. Now, next playoff matchup, going to the Eastern Conference, the Bucks versus the winner of the Heat and Bulls. Do we just skip over this?
Need to get into this?
No, we don't need to.
First of all, hold on. DeMar gonna get one, so let's pay some respect.
All right, you know what? You're. I apologize because in my notes I have 5. Yeah. But for show purposes, I did 4.
DeMar gonna get one.
DeMar and Levine.
Little mini
Levine's gonna get one.
Just so you know, last year that Middleton got hurt. That's why he got that one.
Or this year, or your man Giannis kept getting cooked down the stretch because DeMar was just hitting him with midi after midi after midi after midi after midi.
Right.
Remember
he
that?
He did do that. But that wasn't that's a fact. That is a fact. It wasn't countered by Middleton earlier in the game, though.
DPOI, stop somebody.
You do. Yeah, that I can't fight. I will not fight.
We know the Bulls don't have a chance. They never did. They never will. They didn't have a chance.
Never will is painful.
Bulls are winning tonight. The Bulls are winning tonight.
Bulls are winning tonight.
I think it's just cool for us to just get this series out of the way that we feel like aren't going to be very competitive. And let's talk about the best Eastern Conference matchup last. So next matchup, Hawks and Celtics. I mean, is there a way Trae Young?
Celtics should comfortably whip their ass.
This one, I mean this.
You dudes. Here's the thing, though. You dudes, I know on paper what it looks like, but Jason Tatum's production goes down against the Atlanta Hawks. It goes down. Not only
26 this year against them.
Yeah, his production goes down against the Atlanta Hawks, and Atlanta Hawks could make this interesting depending on the health of Robert Williams, because we've seen what Clinton Capella is on the glass, right? We've seen what John Collins is on the glass. I think they can make from the
prediction.
Just from the defensive end. I think they can make this interesting. In terms of a sweep, I'm not gonna. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but I do think they can make this interesting. And
OG choking up. You don't know he tried to say.
What I'm saying is that I do think that Atlanta is more competitive than you guys think.
Okay,
for sure.
Now, listen, John, you can go.
I know Celtics fans are all high and mighty after this regular season, but this Hawks team has rim protection.
Hawks in 7.
And Onyeka, I've got the Hawks taking a game here, and it's going to be a competitive 5-gamer.
They don't play serious defense.
They've got a healthy team unlike last year where John Collins is healthy, Clint's looking good, like great 42% rebounding percentage versus the Miami Heat, and also Trae Young looked unselfish in that playing game versus the Heat. If he's playing off the ball more and relegating DeJounte and DeAndre Hunter, this could go to 6 games, maybe. Now the Celtics are still going to win, but it's not going to be a sweep.
Is DeAndre Hunter the Tatum stopper? Because what's going on? Why is his production dropping?
Maybe. I guess so. Yeah.
Listen, Dehls, I'm gonna be honest.
It's not the offensive mind.
When I think about these Atlanta Hawks, man,
we are talking about
these Atlanta Hawks. These Atlanta Hawks. I don't know if you know this, but they go 500 then lose. They go 500 then lose. They win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. That's been the story all along, all season. Which means they'll lose game 1, they'll win game 2, they'll lose game 3, they'll win game 4, they'll lose game 5, they'll win game 6,
and lose game 7.
I have the Celtics, man, in 7.
Oh my god!
Oh wow!
Now I'm playing. Listen,
I was about to say I'm not going down this rabbit hole.
I want to respect the Hawks though, because since Quinn Snyder has taken over, they have the 4th best offense in the NBA, and it's mostly due to just him making quicker decisions. Trae Young is more comfortable making decisions now, and he just made the offense more simpler. This is a great offensive team. Their defense sucks, though, and that's the big Achilles heel here. I think there'll be a game where the Celtics don't shoot well from 3, because that's always, there's always variance in that. The Hawks are playing well and clicking offensively. So I have the Hawks winning a game. I think it's Celtics.
They're better than their record,
3 times. We played the Hawks 3 times. We won all 3 games.
Was it before Quinn Snyder?
28%, 29%, and 22%.
Please move on.
Dehls.
Yeah, this conversation is way too
The
long.
Hawks in 2021 and damn near got swept in the playoffs.
I'll be honest, if the Celtics don't dog walk the Hawks, you're not going to the finals. This is embarrassing.
Agreed.
Yeah, if the Celtics want to go to the finals, it should be a 4-game series.
You need to set
4 games
and get ready for
It's
the
gonna be
finals.
Got news for you, Dehls.
Matter of fact, I
This
don't know.
won't be a 4
Wait,
game.
how many Dehls? How many games are all of them are nationally televised, right?
Celtics
We know,
trolling. I don't know.
yeah, we know Tatum's not very good in those this year. So
Damn.
He's gonna have a stinker in there, and the Hawks are gonna win that game.
DeAndre Hunter, stopper.
And I'm a big Tatum fan, as you guys know. I'm a huge Tatum fan. But
so now 76ers versus the Nets.
Come on.
this is another one who Philadelphia should.
This
smoke
has a better
people
chance to go to
in the
6 than the fucking Celtics one.
You're
I
crazy.
actually
No,
The Hawks are a better team than the Nets.
Okay, first of all, that was crazy. One has Trey
I
Young,
don't
one has
think so.
Mikal Bridges. Let's be
Right.
serious.
Well,
Let's
first of
respect
all,
Mikal Bridges.
yes.
Let's do it.
And
I trust the
if
Nets
you-
defensively more, their personnel.
if you look at that Brooklyn team, Brooklyn has what Philadelphia has, but the difference is that they got a bunch of guys who can keep the game close. They don't have anybody who can push you over the top.
Yep.
Philadelphia, on the other hand, actually has that.
True.
And that's going to be the difference in that series. They don't have one guy, they have two. Now, James Harden, I think he's in a position this year where he's got to show it because he's been with Joel Embiid all year. See, last year he only had Joel Embiid for half the season. So we got a small sample size of what they look like. We saw what he looked like this year, the entire series. Now we have to elevate that legend by doing it in the playoffs and doing it at a high level. I think they handle Brooklyn in 5 games tops.
I'm with that.
I think this is a 4-game series. I think this is a sweep.
Me too.
The Nets just don't have enough firepower. They're below 500 since the trade deadline. They're just not a very good team. They would have been a playing team had it not been for Kyrie and KD winning so many games for them early on. And the Sixers are one of the 3 teams that rank top 10 in offensive rating and defensive rating. So they're a top offensive and defensive team. And an interesting stat I found is that Mikal Bridges, while he's averaging 27 points per game in Brooklyn, 84% of his baskets have been assisted.
So needs a point guard.
So that's been off the basketball.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Which
That's
is
a
interesting because I thought, given his offensive production, it'll mostly be more so ISO reliant. But he's somebody who's really been coming off of actions and sets and getting his points.
But that also like keeps him for energy. That saves your energy. When you do stuff like you don't have to work as hard.
Yeah, and the Nets. This is also an interesting stat. They're 9-1 when they hit 15 or more threes. They're 4-14 when they don't.
Damn.
Yeah, they have to
half
have
of
much
threes.
isolation creation.
Maybe
They
5.
just don't have just down the stretch.
go 5.
They got the other team has Embiid, Harden. It's just 4
No
games.
love for Claxton, Joel? What happened? This is with your man's all season long, and I haven't heard a word from him the last 2 months. He can't do anything.
I just talked about him in the defensive teams episode. I think Claxton is amazing. I think that he's going to get into foul trouble this series, and the Nets don't have a backup big, so that's going to hurt them. And that's why I think the Sixers got this easily. But Claxton has been amazing. He's one of the players that took a big leap this year. He took a major
Riv's logic is we just better than y'all. That's why we're gonna beat y'all. There's no schemes. There's nothing else. We just better than y'all. Period.
Yo, because OG, like, what we doing here? Like, what's up? Like, y'all
We just
spent
better than
4
y'all.
minutes on Celtics Hawks.
like Philly and the Celtics, they want to win championships. You want to be chip teams, right? So you
Right.
need to go in there and whip these teams' asses. Like, what are we doing here? Like, this
Why
ain't
we,
no
why,
joke.
we just better than y'all. Ain't no reason why we should be hanging around y'all days for 5.
Unless it's close.
6,
Like this
7
next
games.
one, the next one we're gonna talk about. This is the one that's really gonna get to it, you know. But these other ones, I'm
Only
not
good one
watching
in
these.
East, really.
Now, this is the most interesting series in the Eastern Conference playoffs, and possibly the entire playoffs. I think the third most. I think it's Kings, Warriors, Grizzlies, Lakers, and Knicks, Cavs. Cavaliers versus the Knicks. I mean, man, this is a tough matchup. I'm going back and forth. You know, I first had the Cavs in
Shocker.
6. I had the Cavs in 6 at first because, listen, man, Julius Randle ankle injury is concerning. I don't know how he's going to play in the playoffs. I want to trust Julius. I really do. I want to trust him. I have his jersey, and I bought it for a reason. I just don't know what to expect, man. I really don't. I think that in this series, a big-time matchup is going to be on the boards, rebounding, Mitchell Robinson versus Jared Allen. I think that's going to be big in this series, just the rebounding, because the Knicks get a lot of second-chance points, so we need to win the glass battle. And Okoro versus Brunson, that's going to be the matchup, and I think Mobley's going to play help side and stuff. Rethinking this series, because I did change my mind on this series, I have the Knicks in 7 games. I have the Knicks winning this series.
Ooh, in Cleveland, winning in Cleveland.
Yeah, and if it's not in 7, I have them winning in 6, because as good as the Cavaliers are, I respect the Cavs. They've had a tremendous season, and this could be the series where Mitchell does what he does usually in the playoffs. Evan Mobley shows everybody he's a star. So does Darius Garland. But I look at the Knicks. I think Jalen Brunson can match anybody's production in this series. I think Jalen Brunson has already shown me he can outplay Mitchell in the series. I don't think Okoro can guard him at all. Not even a little bit. And when we talk about the Utah Jazz perimeter defense versus the Cavs perimeter defense, what's really the difference? It's Okoro. But really, is Okoro that significant of a defender over like someone like Royce O'Neal? I don't really think so. I think Jalen Brunson is going to dominate this series. I think he's going to be a really great player. And really, this series just comes down to Julius Randle playing well. If Julius Randle plays at an all-star level, at his all-NBA level, we are winning this series, because ultimately our starting lineup can match the Cavaliers. We can. Quentin Grimes, he's one of the better defenders in the league. He can guard Mitchell. He can guard Garland. But then our bench is just so much better. We have Emmanuel Quickly, the 6th man of the year. We have Isaiah Hartenstein. We have Josh Hart.
We can stop there.
Yeah, I know. After that, it gets a little muddy. But, Obi Toppin can give you some spot minutes, I guess. But we have just better depth all around. And I think in those minutes where the Cavs are going to have to rely on Karis LeVert off the bench to really do something, we can win those minutes. And I think in the clutch, Jalen Brunson has just shown me to be such a clutch demon. He's been one of the better clutch players in the league. I feel like the Knicks should win. And an X factor is RJ Barrett, because RJ Barrett, although he's averaging one of the most inefficient 20 points per game this year, I mean, if we get Brunson and Randle all-star level, and we get Grimes defending and hitting threes, and we get RJ Barrett playing well, how do we not win this series?
You sound like a true Knicks fan here.
He's back.
It's the first time we've seen him all season.
We missed you.
What you got, John?
Real talk.
I seen John over there seething.
John, are we gonna be on the same side today? Like, is this today? We're gonna be on the same side, or no, we're not. Okay.
He's a
the disrespect is coming.
It's a Julius Randle hater. Disrespectful.
Expect nothing from Julius Randle in the series.
Wow.
I'm not even saying that to be like kind of like joking around. He's coming off an ankle injury. Gonna have Evan Mobley guarding him, and he's already a guy that against John Collins played very poorly in the playoffs. I think his weaknesses are going to shine in this series versus the Cavaliers defense that is a lot better than anything he's faced. And coming off injury, it's going to come down to the Knicks bench. I mean, this Cavaliers bench, it's really bad. It's hideous. I mean, talking about Danny Green and Ricky Rubio, 2 older veterans coming off torn ACLs that haven't given them much this year. Right. I think this Knicks bench is going to add in such an infectious spark. And what it really comes down to is Donovan Mitchell. We've seen in the playoffs him wear down. Last year, he came in out of shape for Utah, but this year was different. And we've seen him buy in more defensively. And I really think, while this may sound oversimplified, it's going to be Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland being the better duo than Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson. While I think Brunson can play and definitely can match what Donovan Mitchell's going to do, this is also going to be a huge series for Darius Garland, who can do so much off the ball. And I think for Cleveland, while they don't have anything off their bench, in the first round of the playoffs, they're going to be okay. They'll get by. I'm a lot more worried about their depth in the second round. But for now, I think this Cleveland backcourt, what they have in the front court, Evan Mobley might have his breakout right here in the Garden for you to watch.
But we are on the same side, John.
Listen, I know that it doesn't matter much because Randle played good against the Hawks in regular season and then played poorly in the playoffs. Last matchup, he averaged he had 36 and 13 against the Cavs.
And
can I go?
brother.
Yeah. This whole Jalen Brunson outperformed Donovan Mitchell.
He did.
I'm not saying it didn't happen. But you like to really string that along. You just like to say that and forget previous years of what Donovan Mitchell has done. It's like you're holding that for dear life. And it was obvious Donovan didn't want to be there anymore. But like John said, D-Mitch came in this year very motivated. He came in back to his defensive ways to a degree. He's been a good defender. You mentioned Utah. What's really the difference? That was just casual alert. Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell give you extreme effort on the defensive end. And the difference is the backbone. The backbone of Jared Allen and Evan Mobley makes this defense what's the word I want to use? A defense that can travel from regular season to the playoffs. The difference between Utah is it could not travel. But when you have Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, you have your guards giving maximum effort. You have Okoro, who is a good defender. it can travel. Now, the bench on the Cleveland is horrible. It is not a good bench. It's really bad. And I think that's where the Knicks, like I agree with you, the Knicks do have the edge on the bench because defensively, quickly, and Grimes gives you a lot heart too. Offensively, they also give you that same thing. But the thing with Cleveland is they're starting five. Like we talked about it before, how like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell can pretty much offset a lot of what some of those bench players can do together. And I agree with John. I think this is the breakout series for Darius Garland. It has to be. I think when you have Donovan Mitchell, you pretty much, based off what history has shown you, you know what he's going to do come prime time. He's going to give you that 34 to 35 points. He's going to give you those big games. But Darius Garland, I think, is the X factor. I think off ball, on ball, the way he sets the table for his bigs, the way he comes in and he's off the ball shooting the ball, he has to be damn near perfect because they're going to zone in on Donovan Mitchell. And for them to zone in on Donovan Mitchell is going to open up the floor for Darius Garland. And he's the point guard. He's the shooter. He has to come and he has to perform. Evan Mobley is also another one that has to make Randle comfortable at all times. He has to make sure Julius Randle has a bad series. But this was tougher than I thought because the Knicks bench is just so good. You know, they really give you that energy. They come off the bench with that vibe, that energy. They spark it up. And then when they're home, that crowd gets into it. It breathes new life into this team. Jalen Brunson is going to come and perform. We know that. I still got the Cavs. I think the Cavs win in 7. You know, I said 5 on Twitter, troll purposes. Seriously, though, I have the Cavs in 7. I think this is probably one of the toughest series to predict because and for me personally, speaking from the Cavs, you want to be in that Milwaukee conversation. You want to be in that Boston conversation. You can't lose this series. There's more pressure on them than the Knicks. I think if you want to walk into that conversation of we built this team together because we want to be one of the elite teams in the league, you cannot lose this series. You have to kind of set the table and make yourself known like, yo, we are here. We are ready. We're going to be more better. You cannot lose the series. So I think it's more pressure on Cleveland. As for the Knicks, we're coming in. We're fresh. This is a new team. We want to win. But the pressure, I think, is more in Cleveland because they made that addition to Donovan Mitchell.
You know,
I'm sorry. Good. Oh, good.
After your analysis, I'm changing my pick, Knicks in 6. And the reason I'm doing that is because what's the difference between Garland? What's the difference between Garland and Mitchell versus Mitchell and Conley? I think Mitchell and Conley
effort. That's
Mitchell
obvious.
and Conley is better. They're better defensively.
No,
Mitchell
they're not.
Showing effort.
Mike Conley got shit on 2 years in a row.
Mike Conley's a better defender than Darius.
Yeah, but Mitchell right now is a better defender when he wasn't Utah the last 3 years. That's the difference.
Mitchell still can't guard Brunson, not even a lick.
But are we just going to also gloss over the fact that Cleveland itself is the #1 defense in the association? Like, why are we just going to gloss over that?
They're a top defense the same way the Jazz were a top defense. I think the Cavs defense will translate because of Evan Mobley. But to act like they're going to translate because of Mitchell and Garland, I disagree with.
No,
it's Evan Mobley who holds this afloat.
That comment when you said that, oh, what's the difference? It didn't make sense because Darius Garland puts in effort. Donovan Mitchell is now back to him being a good defender.
Ultimately, nobody can guard Evan Mobley. Nobody can guard Brunson.
Just because nobody can guard one person doesn't mean the defense can't travel.
He's our point guard that's going to open up the floor for everybody. But you made and also, I want to be fair to Brunson because I want to get something out too. You say I'm holding on to that series where Brunson outplayed Mitchell. Well, that's outside of that series and what I saw from Brunson in the regular season versus Luka, without Luka, I mean, that was a big part of me saying Brunson was going to be an all-star when he went to the Knicks. So ultimately, me holding on to those performances were why I was right about Brunson being the player I thought he'd be in New York. So I take that, I value that a lot. And also, let's not act like this is just a playoff series thing. We can argue since the beginning of the new year, January 1st, Brunson has been a better player than Mitchell. He's averaged 30 points per game since the start of the new year. He's been a top guard.
Why do you use that every argument?
To act like Mitchell and Brunson, like Brunson can't outplay Mitchell is ridiculous. He can definitely outplay Mitchell.
No, first of all, hold on, I'm sorry, OG.
Go ahead. You go.
I don't know why you do that, where you like to cut off the year and make it for where this portion of the year he was better. So that's like act like this. January what totality
Agendas.
Of Donovan Mitchell is about to make all NBA team, bro. Let's
Donovan Mitchell averaged 26. Correct? He averaged 26. Correct.
And number two. I say you like to harp on that Jalen Brunson series because you completely don't say anything about what Donovan Mitchell has done in his career, but you love to solely talk about that one series
because it was head to head. It was head to head.
Jalen Brunson played great, which nobody's disagreeing, but Donovan Mitchell did not want to be there. Utah had extreme chemistry issues. But you love to bring that up. And then when you see Donovan Mitchell come in here into this season, he's definitely more motivated. You see he's back defensively. Like, I don't understand. You make it seem like we act like Jalen Brunson isn't good or like he can't outplay him. What history has shown us is Donovan Mitchell is an all-time statistical playoff performer.
I've mentioned, look, I'm a fan of Donovan Mitchell, and I've mentioned before he's an all-time real player performer. That's why I wanted him on New York. But ultimately, of course, I'm going to take their head-to-head matchup into consideration when they're going head-to-head again. Of course, I'm going to do that.
Riv, he's making a fair point for the sole fact of the point he made of his analysis on Jalen Brunson for him translating it over to the Knicks was based off that matchup that he had with Donovan Mitchell. And what he did against Donovan Mitchell, which, Riff, to be fair to you, you're not ignoring. You're understanding that Jalen Brunson did play slightly better than Donovan Mitchell at that series. But then you're kind of giving Donovan a little bit of an excuse. And that's
what did I say to give him an excuse?
You said that he didn't want to be there. Yeah, that's not a fair.
But I never in my analysis I never
still
said
an excuse.
Yeah, but I'm listening to you. In my analysis, I never said Jalen Brunson wasn't going to show up. Not once.
No, I never said that. I never said that. But you just gave Donovan Mitchell an excuse, which, to be fair, is kind of a reason why you could.
That's the only thing he brings up with Donovan Mitchell. He does not bring up anything else. You cannot sit there. Yes,
no, I'm bringing it up because they're going head to head again. They're head to head again.
It's a head to head, but. What you cannot just base that
it's a different Jazz team to Cavaliers.
Yeah,
it's a way different team.
Brunson just had a 40 ball on him
in a regular season game. Donovan Mitchell. Okay, so wait,
he had it in the playoffs too.
But Donovan Mitchell gave the Celtics 40 twice. Are you gonna sit there and weigh those regular season games to the playoffs?
Yes. I think Mitchell can give the Celtics 40 in the playoffs.
As long as you're consistent, do your thing. You know,
he's had 50-point games in the playoffs before.
All I'm
saying is that Brunson. For one, Brunson versus Mitchell. Mitchell's averaging what, 26, 5 and 4, something like that. Brunson's averaging 24 and 6. Let's not act like the gap is crazy. Brunson is averaging 24 and 6. Mitchell's averaging 26 and something. Their production this year. I think Mitchell's a better player, but let's not act like Mitchell is a far significant better performance statistically this season. It's been very close.
That doesn't even make sense.
You said that Mitchell was an all-NBA performer, and then use that against Brunson.
No, because you're talking about statistics in the regular season. We're talking about the playoffs right now. And if we talk about playoffs, statistically, Donovan Mitchell is clear.
All right, Riv, now this is where you're kind of losing me. With all due respect, Riv,
not these past playoffs.
Why you're losing me? Joel, let me help you out real quick. All right, why you're losing me, Riv, is for the fact that you're saying that's the regular season. Are you going to weigh the regular season heavily? We're talking about the playoffs. But then when Joel talks about Jalen Brunson playing better than Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs, then you're saying, hey, you're always referring to that one playoff series.
Because Donovan Mitchell has
I'm with you, Riv, but again, I feel like you're talking to Joel like he's an idiot in this scennario.
You're devaluing the playoffs and regular season when it comes to
you're kind of going back and forth here, and I don't know which because listen, and ultimately I'm with you. I believe the Cavaliers win this series. But I feel like just your argument is a little bit all over the place.
It's not. He literally just brought up regular season statistics and said it's not a gap. I didn't bring up statistics one time.
But first he talked about the playoffs and how Jalen Brunson got the better of Donovan Mitchell.
Yes, and I said that's fine. I said that's fine. If you want to talk about the head-to-head, that is fine. That did happen. But we're not going to act like, based off what history has shown us, that Donovan Mitchell does not clear in the playoffs. Acting like that's not true.
I never said for his career, Mitchell's a better player.
I'm with you.
And I'm not saying
Brunson was better. All I said was that Brunson, I believe, will match Mitchell's production in the series. If not play better than
that's where I don't agree. I
disagree. Joel, I will tell you this. I thought you brought up RJ Barrett being the most inefficient.
It'll be close.
Bringing up him being the most inefficient 20 a game. Well, RJ Barrett is a rhythm scorer. There are a lot of guys who are rhythm scorers, and I don't think Brunson, one of the biggest knocks I have on him, he doesn't pass nearly as much as I'd like for him to pass. And a lot of RJ Barrett's action it comes in transition. A lot of stopping pops, a lot of stuff in transition where he gets layups. But when they get into the half court, you'll have stuff like he won't touch the ball for 3 or 4 straight trips, which will throw him off rhythm. And then now you get him getting the shot after he's out of rhythm. So that I think that would equate to his inefficiency. I think the thing none of you guys didn't mention, which I thought was interesting. I think the front line is going to be the difference in this series. And the reason why I feel like that is because I look at both Hartenstein, who I still stand on the logic with both Robinson and Hartenstein. I think about the kid from Charlotte, Mark Williams. I think he's better than Robinson today. I think the Knicks made a mistake passing on him. I think he's their starting 5-man today. I don't think they get anything offensively from those two guys nearly as much as what Cleveland gets from both Jared Allen and Mobley. Add that to the fact that those guys wearing on them defensively, I think that's going to ultimately wear them down throughout the series. And I think that's why the Cavs are going to beat them in 6 games.
OG just took the words right out of my mouth. The difference in this series, unfortunately, is the front court. Evan Mobley is probably either not the defensive player of the year, number 2 in defensive player of the year. He's one of the most versatile defenders in this game. And then on top of it, Jared Allen, one of the better rim protectors on top of that as well. Now, I understand getting into the back and forth between Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson. Of course, that's going to be the primary offense in this series. But I just look at the Cavaliers and I just see them as a supercharged Knicks. Now, Julius Randle is a great basketball player. I'm very optimistic that he will play well in this series. However, the fact that defensively he has to go against Evan Mobley and Jared Allen at times, it's going to be very difficult for him, especially coming off this ankle injury. I think that this is going to be a great series because you can't undersell how great the Knicks have been. Emmanuel Quickley has been phenomenal. I need to give credit to Quentin Grimes because I was critical of his 3-point shooting prior to the All-Star break, at the All-Star break. For him to get it to 38%, I need to tip my cap to him because that is phenomenal. 33 to 38. That is a big difference, especially when you're playing the defense that Quentin Grimes plays. That definitely did not go unnoticed with me. So that's why I believe that this series will be close. But the difference is I just feel like the Cavaliers are just the Knicks, just supercharged.
That's fair.
Really quick question for you. I don't want to interrupt you, but I got a really quick question. Okay. Am I out of line if when I watch Grimes, does he look like a more controlled John Starks?
I didn't watch John Starks out, to be honest.
Because that's what he looks like to me. He looks like a more under controlled, unemotional John Starks, who could be a better offensive player.
But we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see playoff time because obviously we know what happens with John Starks in playoff time.
For me, OG, I compared Quentin Grimes to Desmond Bane. I think that he can be that level of player, but right now he's the 4th option compared to Bane, who's the 2nd option in Memphis. You got a Jim and Quigley though. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead. And also, the Knicks
is nice.
The Knicks can go small. Like there's potential where RJ is not in the rotation as much, and we have Grimes and IQ out there to guard Mitchell and Garland, and I think that's a great matchup.
And where's the Brunson?
It is.
Okoro.
Oh, you like play 3. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and typically it's hard because we always talk about how the regular season and postseason is different, but it does feel like that last Cavs-Knicks game had a little bit more to it a couple of weeks ago when Randall didn't play. Brunson dropped 46, 48 points because we already knew this was going to be the matchup. And I don't want to
in Cleveland, by the way. Don't leave that out.
In Cleveland, yes. In Cleveland, the Knicks come out. They dropped 47, or excuse me, the Cavs in the first quarter dropped 47. The Knicks are almost, neck and neck with them, dropped 42. Like the Cavs gave them their biggest punch without Randall, and the Knicks were able to keep up, put up 42 in that first quarter, took the lead at halftime, never really looked back. Brunson had a great game. Randall didn't play, obviously. I don't want to put too much stock into that because it is a regular season game, but it's important to note the Knicks are up 3-1 in this series. For the most part, it feels like they're pretty comfortable in those 3 wins as well. And the Knicks have had a great season, right? I don't think any of us, maybe Joel, even Joel's wildest dreams, I don't know if you thought they could be a top 4 offense, top 7 net rating, one of the best rebounding teams, not turn the ball. Like, they do everything very well. There's not a glaring weakness in terms of, like, team statistics for the Knicks. But this Cavs team in a 7-game series just feels like such a bitch to get through. I mean, we talked about the front court with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. The backcourt, just the ammunition they have offensively, Garland and Donovan Mitchell. It just feels like these 4 guys, even though the depth isn't there, and it's kind of funny because Riv was talking so highly about the depth of the Clippers, and now he's kind of overlooking the depth of the Knicks in this series. But the depth that they lack, I think makes up for those 4 guys being how young they can be, how great defensively they've been all year, that they could play 35, 36, 38 minutes every night. And I feel like they have the legs to be able to sustain that throughout this playoff series. I think the Knicks, one of the bigger issues, obviously Julius Randle coming back from this ankle injury. He already has questions just generally his playoff performance from that Hawks game that I'm sure John is going to talk about at length because that's his favorite topic on this show. But I do think Jared Allen is going to play a big role being able to limit Mitchell Robinson's rebounding, offensive rebounding, which he's been one of the best in the NBA at this season. I think if they take away that part of the game, it's going to hurt the Knicks offense to get second chance points. But there is a world the Knicks are able to win this series. I mean, Jalen Brunson has shown this year he's a star. He's an all-star level player that can carry an offense when needed. And the depth is there. You do have guys like Josh Hart, Quickly, who's a great player, Grimes, Obi Toppin in spurts possibly as well, Hartenstein we talked about as well. So there's a world where I could see the Knicks taking this series. I do think it's a 6 or 7 game series. But I look at the Cavs and it just feels like they have more firepower, feels like they're a bit more star power. Defensively, I trust them more in the 48 minutes. And then, like I said, the rebounding battle, even though the Knicks have been one of the best rebounding teams in the league this year, I feel like that front court of Mobley and Jared Allen can offset that to at least enough to be able to take away those second chance points. It's going to be a great series. It's really the only good series in the East for this first round. I got the Cavs.
Yeah, no doubt. Mm-hmm.
You know, Dehls, are you pulling I'm picking
bro,
no, hold on, because you've done it 3 times already.
3.
So you are.
Thank you. I'm thinking it. I'm like, I want to call him out. I don't know.
Yeah, but then you're hitting us with there's a world where I can see this team win.
He did it for every matchup that we talked about for a while.
But but my only problem
is say this is how the Cavs win and not give any world.
I'm not saying. But what am I saying is what we used to do is we used to bash Joel for doing that.
Correct.
And now you're doing it.
You can't be wrong.
I'm not going to be like, I told you guys.
Pick somebody down. Cut the nonsense and pick somebody.
I'm not going to come back.
Listen. I think it's very easy. Listen, Dehls, I'm going to protect you because these 2 buffoons are going out for no reason. Listen. I'm going to defend Dehls for this reason. He gave his prediction. Grizzlies, Warriors, and Cavs. That's who he has. All he's doing is giving analysis. He's giving the Kings win. Because there is a world where they win. There is a world where they win. It's the same reason why, Drew, and this is your mistake, and this was your mistake too, Dehls, when we were previewing the Super Bowl, and I gave you why the Chiefs would win. You all picked the Eagles and gave no reason for the Chiefs.
I stand on my word.
No. You don't stand on your word.
You're
biased. You're biased towards your word. You're biased. You're biased. When you don't give a perspective on the other side, you're being biased. You're not giving any team another chance.
I say, hey, where Mahomes is the best in the game, I believe that XYZ of the Eagles is why they're going to win. That's what I said.
You were wrong. And you were biased. You were wrong because you were biased. And I was right because I was right, and I wasn't biased.
Well, you were biased because you had an agenda against the Eagles, and you have a crush on Patrick Mahomes. So what are we doing?
How is giving 1%?
So you do have a crush on Pat Mahomes. Let's knock it off.
100%.
I know.
He's not
Mahomes. 100%.
Okay, so we'll make sure we clear.
I like all of my quarterbacks.
Can you believe this?
And OG, I'm gonna give you a super pick this year. Jordan Love, baby, Green Bay Packers quarterback.
Well, really quick, Riz, before we move on any further, he's been sitting behind him for what now? 4 years? At what point of it? 3 years. Right? At what we got a first round pick. We spent the first round pick on him. What are we doing with this kid? Let's go.
OG, he's gonna go crazy this year. But Riv, also, I want to point out what Dehls said about you that was faulty. That was 100% facts, and I stand by you. I stand by that, Dehls.
I mean, that answer is very easy. I trust Kawhi and role players more than Jalen Brunson and role players. I thought it was obvious. I didn't think I had to say it.
Respect Julius Randle also.
Players than the Clippers.
They do. I'm not saying that they do.
That's faulty, given that the other side has Kevin Durant who can match Kawhi.
No, listen, I understand what you're saying, but I just trust Kawhi and they're not better than the Knicks role player, but I trust Kawhi and role players as opposed to Jalen Brunson and role players.
They're worse than the Knicks.
Yeah, but Kawhi's better than all of them by far.
But the Suns are way better than the Clippers as a team.
I'm not disagreeing. I did say it was a wild card pick. You know, I didn't disagree with that. I mean, you flipped to Kings twice in
Oh, it sounds like Riv is leaving the door open that if the Suns win, well, this is my
I didn't leave. No,
pick.
I left no door open. I said no. I'm not you, and I'm not Mr. Flip-a-side Senior, and I'm not Flip-a-side President. I left no door. OG, you can listen. Why are we called pick a side if we don't pick no sides?
We do pick a side.
That's the idea.
We got Flip-a-side.
That's the idea.
OG is our
both teams. Then pick a side.
Hold on. OG is our guest here.
Am I not? Can we not? This is why this team quit. This is why this team is winning.
OG,
pick a side.
I get what you're doing.
OG, can we not pick a side while also giving some other sides perspectives and some credit?
That's the idea.
Of course we can.
And
Riv.
But at the end, but at the end, Joe. But at the end, Joe, you do have to pick a side.
Nah, no doubt, and we always do.
Wait, so OG,
but Riv, I want to. You're
like is the higher up. Can I ask you a question real quick, OG? Just a quick question. If me and you are having a conversation, right, and I tell you why this team's gonna win, and you tell me why the other team is gonna win. Can it not be after we kind of talk about how, okay, well, I can see why you think this team is going to win. I can see why you think this team. And it's not looking at as bias because I feel like what Dehls is doing is he's talking about a team winning, but he's leaving that slight little door to where if the other team wins, he's like, well, I did say that they could win. So that means I'm not totally wrong.
That's why I did not appreciate that shit when he said that about the Lakers.
Drew, I'm glad we can hold on, Drew.
Because at some point, though,
I picked every series, and I just said, obviously, all these series are close, so there's a world of Lakers.
Ultimately, it comes down to this.
But I'm still making.
But if you're
picks.
picking,
not
even if that's true, Dehls,
Bulls versus fucking Bucks.
But even if that's true, Dehls, at some point when you pick somebody, this is why I'm picking this and I'm sticking with them. It's not, well, I'm picking them, but these guys could possibly do it. No, I'm sticking with this crew right here. I think the New York Knicks could beat the Cavs because of their front line. Even though Jalen Brunson is awesome, even though Quigley is one of the best bench players,
exactly.
I think ultimately the front line for the Cleveland Cavaliers is going to be the difference in the series, and I'm picking the Cavs in 6. Period.
But this is a question I pose to you.
Yes, sir.
What is better, predicting a series correctly or getting the analysis on the series correct?
You can't get the analysis correct if the team don't win.
You can because you can like Dale said.
Delusion.
No, you
That's
can't.
delusion.
No,
you can have
just not understanding
the right
what I'm
analysis,
saying.
but an injury pops up.
Oh, I mean,
you can basically say, like, for example, OG, I can be like, okay, the key for this team to win is they have to hit the 3-point shots, but this is a matchup in this series that can ultimately swing it. And whichever favor it goes, that series swings. Right. So let's say, for example, I picked the Grizzlies in the Lakers series because I believe JJJ will stay out of foul trouble. Right. But I did say he is the key to the series. So if Jaren Jackson does get into foul trouble and the Lakers win, then the analysis on the series was correct. Although I picked the Grizzlies, my analysis was correct, and I value that more than my prediction.
That's not
what I'm saying.
You said no.
It's process over results.
Your analysis was
exactly
JJJ stayed out of foul trouble. This will happen. This will happen. He didn't stay out of foul trouble. You were wrong in your analysis and your pick. What are we doing here?
I didn't say he will stay out of foul trouble. I said he has to.
Yeah, and if he doesn't, you were wrong in your analysis.
No, because I never. I don't think you're understanding this, Riv. I really don't.
Because you're trying to give yourself a window.
What he's doing is he's giving you reasons why he thinks he's giving you reasons why he thinks Memphis is going to win.
God forbid.
He's also giving you reasons why he thinks the Lakers are going to win. But at some point, even with me giving you reasons why I think this team can win and why I think this team can win, ultimately I have to stand on something. This is why this team is going to win. Period. This is why this team is going to win. Period. Even though this team does this, I'm sticking with this group right here, and I'm standing on that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Like for example, if I say, let's say you said I did say that, right? I believe JJJ will stay out of foul trouble, right?
Right.
And if he doesn't,
yes. No, see, stop right there. And no, if he doesn't, you just said you believe he's going to stay out of foul trouble. I have to stand on that. But that's the end of it.
Yes. Of course, I stand on that, no doubt. But once we see the series actually play out, and let's say Jaren Jackson does get into foul trouble, then I come back on the show and I'm like, yeah, I was wrong on him staying out of foul trouble, but ultimately I was right on his foul trouble being the reason why the series swung.
And that's where Riv is with the door being open. That's where Riv is with the door.
But I value the process over results, like Dehls said. Ultimately, you'd like the process should lead to a right result, but that's not always the case though.
I just feel like when I'm wrong about something, okay, I was wrong about something because this is what I said this was going to be. Only except it wasn't that, and I can go back and now change my theory on why now I think they're going to win. However, my original theory, this is why I think that they're going to win, and this is what I'm sticking with. Not this is my theory, but on this end, I still think that this could happen. No, you got to stick with something.
No,
perfect comment. Perfect comment by Twisted Arcade. That's not process over results. That's covering your ass.
I don't think it is. I really don't. There's a reason why if you take a math test in school and you get the entire equation right, but the answer wrong, they still give you credit. Because ultimately,
wrong. They mark it completely wrong. There's no
they don't mark it completely wrong.
I don't get credit for getting half the problem right. That's never happened to me.
We all had different math teachers. We all had different math teachers.
My math teachers gave me credit for getting everything right.
My teacher was a dick. She would
get it right or you get it wrong. It's just that simple. There's no I got some of it right.
Now, John,
the 2 part right, but I got the 4 wrong.
John, what's your opinion on this?
Notice they said L analogy.
What's your opinion on Knicks
the
and
math
Cavs?
Analogy? That was terrible.
What's your opinion on this process over results theory we're talking about right now?
I actually
talk about the Cavs and Knicks.
Somehow this has turned into a 32-minute conversation, process or result. Because hey, look, if Steph Curry, let's say, doesn't finish this Kings series, God forbid, right? Knock on wood, it doesn't happen.
Right.
Maybe the Kings win, but if my analysis was correct, then I'll take being right about something like the analysis, even if the result's not what I expected, because a lot of different variables will pop up. And what was the saying your nephew gave you, OJ?
What was the saying that my nephew?
We're talking about changing your opinion.
You're allowed to change.
Oh, you allowed your opinion. You're allowed to change your opinion, provided new information.
And new information will always pop up in a 7-game playoff series. So,
yeah, I agree, John. And listen, I know that you have the Cavs in the series. The question is in how many games.
I've got the Cavs in 6, Joel. Let's move on.
Now listen, OG. I know that we all are picking the Cavs, or for the most part, because we're expecting Julius Randle not to play well. At least that's my hunch. Let's say Julius Randle plays at his level. Do the Knicks not win this series?
No, because I think that even if he does play well, I still think that ultimately that front line wears them down. And I think it's going to come down to that front line wearing them down and Donovan Mitchell still being the best player in this series. I think those two things are going to be the difference. Even if Julius Randle plays well, which I think he is, I don't think I'm going to see the Julius Randle from 2021 who was a stinker in the first round. No, I think I'm going to see a better version of him, no question about that. But I think that Donovan Mitchell, I think he's going to be a lot better, and I think that front line ultimately wears them down. And the fact that you don't get any production, or not any production, the fact that you don't get equal production offensively from the Knicks front line as you do from that Cavs front line, I think that's going to be the difference in the series. That's why I got the Cavs in 6.
Okay.
John, you have no analysis on the game? Like you just
He already gave it.
I didn't even. What did you say?
Julius Randle stinks.
He gave his analysis 2 months ago.
Damn.
Yeah. Now listen, Mojo has a promo for the Knicks and Cavs series for game 1. Jalen Brunson to score 15 points during game 1. Now, his line was originally at 28.5. So 15 points is literally a steal. It's free money. You can put in a max bet of $20. You can download Mojo on the App Store, Google Play. You can download it everywhere, but only use in New Jersey. They're working on. Yeah, it sucks. They're getting it in different states soon. I love using Mojo, but 15 plus points, Jalen Brunson. This is an absolute steal. I mean, it's literally free money. Sure. It's literally free money. Now, we're going to briefly touch on these next 2 topics, and these are going to be sponsored by Mojo as well. And then we'll end off the show. So, top 5 players list in each conference. We'll start with the Western Conference. According to Mojo, the top 5 players and their share price is based off of career value. Number 1 is LeBron. Number 2 is KD. Number 3 is Jokic. Number 4 is Steph, and number 5 is Chris Paul because of the career he's had. But
longevity.
Next one up would be Devin Booker and Anthony Davis at 5.
Wow,
where's Kawhi?
It's between those. He's not in the playoffs. That's why.
Okay, that's all. We're talking about playoffs.
So
where's Kawhi at?
Well, do you have your own personal 5?
Yeah, listen, my personal 5.
Let's do it.
Number 1 to me is Kevin Durant. I think he's the best player in the Western Conference. He's literally the only player I see out of all these top players that has no weakness in his game, really. And he's no weakness. Number 2 is Nikola Jokic. Number 3 is LeBron. Number 4 is Steph. And number 5, I have Anthony Davis.
Okay, so I'll go after you. I got number 1. I got the Joker out of respect for what he's been doing. Number 2, I got Stephen Curry, another player who doesn't have a weakness in his game. Respect my boy.
Defense.
Yeah, that's not a weakness. He's good at it. Number 3, I got Kevin Durant, of course.
What are we doing?
Number 4, I have LeBron James. He's coming right in. And then whoa, that was open. And then number 5, I got Anthony Davis. That's my 5.
Of those 5, I'm picking those same 3 guys only, except I'm putting them at the top of the list because LeBron James and Steph Curry and Anthony Davis are the only 3 guys in this group that have championships. Those are the only 3 guys. So those guys in the playoffs today have to be in the top 5. That's number 1.
He just said Kevin Durant's rings mean absolutely not a thing to me. And that's why I stamp you, OG. Amen to that. He went crazy. Amen. I'm with you.
Number 4, I would say Kevin Durant, and then number 5, I would have to go with Kawhi Leonard.
Well, how do you feel about that, Joel, Mr. Kevin Durant lover?
Listen, I think Kevin Durant deserves his respect. He was 2-time Finals MVP. I understand
he was 2-time Finals MVP.
I understand.
And I'm not going to leave that out. I'm thinking about recently. I'm not thinking about
when he was with good teams and not the super team. I get
it. No, not the. I'm not discounting it, but I'm thinking about just recently. I don't want to discount what Kevin Durant did because he wasn't just on the bus. He wasn't just on the bus. He did win the Finals MVP.
He was sitting in the front
seat. We wouldn't look at you any different if you decided to do so.
OG's a smart man.
I just want to make sure that we clear.
He trying to save face.
Nah, he knows. He knows.
So who's your 5, Drew?
So number 1, of course, LeBron James. It's playoff time. It's a different conversation. We're talking about the best player in basketball come these moments, LeBron James. Number 2, Stephen Curry. Of course, he gets that title right underneath LeBron James. Number 3, I have Kevin Durant. You mentioned it, no weakness to his game. He's been phenomenal. We just need to ensure, God willing, he stays healthy. The Suns will be a dominant team, no doubt. Number 4, I have Nikola Jokic, 2-time MVP. If maybe conversation and maybe the Nuggets, lack of dominant play the last month of basketball, probably looking at a back-to-back MVP, but that will not be the case. I have Nikola Jokic at 4. And I was torn between 5 and 6, to be honest with you. I know we're only 5, but I have to give my honorable mention between Kawhi and Anthony Davis, because understanding Kawhi has the responsibilities of a 1, but the way that Anthony Davis has been consistently great, it's tough. I have to be biased in this one scenario, though. I'm going Anthony Davis.
You didn't have to, but you did.
No, I did. Yeah. I did.
You were going to.
Yeah. So we all have Kawhi Leonard over Anthony Davis right now?
Yeah.
I have AD over Kawhi.
I was going to say. I thought I heard the rest of you guys.
I mean, Anthony Davis over Kawhi.
Yeah.
I got Kawhi at 5. I have KD, Curry, Jokic, LeBron, Kawhi. I got Kawhi over AD.
Respectable 5. I ain't mad.
Wait, you don't have Steph?
I just want to make sure I had James, Curry, Anthony Davis.
Steph was 2.
Kevin Durant,
AD.
Anthony. Yeah, that's why.
I think AD at 5 or AD and Kawhi at 5 or 6 is valid.
Yeah.
And John, who's your top 5?
Steph is number 1. The finals performance he had last year versus Celtics was unbelievable. I have Jokic number 2 until he went to championship because there's more concerns with him. At number 3, I do have Kevin Durant. He may be more a complete player than Steph, but that finals performance, that finals run last year, him doing it on his own again. I mean, Steph is the best player in the conference.
Hence the term again.
You guys really are disgustingly disrespectful.
At number 4, I have Luka Doncic, and then at number 5,
he's not even playing the playoffs.
Okay, but he is the top 5 player in the conference.
John, what the hell?
We meant in the conference and the playoffs.
John, you're giving casual. You're giving casual. All right, lock the fuck in.
About?
We're talking about the playoffs.
In the conference.
Playoffs.
I know. I'm just saying, if it were,
you're right.
Look at the lower third. Each conference in the playoffs. Number 4,
you made that. You made a mistake.
At number 5, I'd have LeBron James. Well, you didn't tell me that before the show. LeBron, I would have below Kawhi, more so because it's just like a toss-up between the two. And I think Kawhi is a slightly better two-way player in this stage of his career. I think Anthony Davis would be an honorable.
Drew, why do you think it's disrespectful to have a dude who just won a chip and averaged 30 in a final?
No, I'm not disrespecting. I'm not disrespecting Stephen Curry. I have him number 2 on mine.
No, but I'm saying when John said Steph had won, you got mad.
No, I wasn't mad. I was mad at Jokic and then Luka Doncic.
Well, the reason why, Drew, is because LeBron's a walking playing team, and Nikola Jokic every year in the playoffs actually leads his team to a top 3 seed. And a floor raiser matters more than a ceiling raiser if you can't get to your ceiling. Every year
there's no way you're talking about Jokic when it comes to LeBron in the playoffs.
I mean, what do you mean?
Because LeBron he's a playoff guy.
The greatest playoff performer ever.
This shit ever. 2016, it's 2023, and right now,
how about 2020? How about 2020?
Jokic is a better
forgot about that?
and he's a better offensive player.
Hell up, John.
Can we move on?
This is
LeBron fans. What you're doing? You're just riding his coattails when Jokic is the better player right now.
This is Eastern Conference according to Mojo. Top 5 players in Eastern Conference playoffs according to Mojo. Number 1 is Giannis. Think that's pretty easy. This is based off career value. So number 2 is James Harden, and him being at 2 shows just how much he needs a championship to solidify his resume. Number 3 is Tatum. Number 4 is Embiid, and number 5 is Donovan Mitchell.
Okay, so you go ahead, Joel. Go same.
My personal top 5 is 1 Giannis, 2 Embiid, 3 Tatum, 4 Mitchell, 5 it was a toss up between Brown and Harden, and I think I'm gonna go Jaylen Brown right now.
No Young.
I don't think Trae Young is better than either of these guys right now.
For me, Jaylen Brown and Trae Young.
I think Jaylen Brown's better than Trae Young right now.
I think for me, I did mine wrong. I did my West wrong. I should do my West like my East. Giannis at 1, Joel Embiid at 2, Tatum at 3. I'm gonna go D Mitch at 4, and then I'll go James Harden at 5. I think I'm gonna go.
I feel like that's the list. I have Trae Young honorable mention. I feel like he needs that acknowledgement, of course. You mentioned Jaylen Brown. I've loved to see his acknowledgement and his respect amongst the best players in the league. Of course, being a Jaylen Brown supporter, that's phenomenal. But I feel like the 5 has to be Giannis, Embiid, Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, and James Harden. James Harden has been phenomenal this season, and he really has not been talked about as much because he's playing on the team with the MVP, leading the league in assists. Again, like I mentioned earlier in the show, his second most efficient season at the 3-point line, shooting 38%, and he has 21 points per game, but it's on significantly less shot attempts than we're accustomed to seeing from James Harden. He's been unbelievable this year, and it's been under the radar.
And just to be fair, I only have Jaylen Brown over Harden because I do trust Jaylen Brown in the playoffs a little bit more.
That hurts for you. I know.
He's super consistent.
I think it's interesting that a dude who has his team in the Eastern Conference Championship twice in the last 3 years and had his team in the NBA Finals is not on this list, and that's Jimmy Butler. I thought that was interesting, but that's another.
You might not make
Who's
it.
Your 5?
Yeah.
OG.
Who's your 5, OG?
I'm the same 5 that you just said. I'm cool with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm cool
Jimmy
with that
Butler
right
might not get in, brother. Man, respect.
Right. He might not, but he also might get. I don't think they're beating the Bulls tonight.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough. Dehls, you got the same list?
I was gonna troll and say Tatum 1, but no, I have the same. I have the same top 3. Giannis, Embiid, Embiid, Tatum, Mitchell 4, 5. Jaylen Brown, Harden, Trae. It's really you want to talk. Obviously, you know who I'm taking. I'm taking the real JB, but I'm up for a debate there.
And John, who's your top 5?
It would also be Giannis, Embiid, Tatum, Donovan Mitchell. Actually, no, scratch that. Jimmy Butler and then Donovan number 5.
He's not getting in.
John,
we have to see.
Jeez.
Now, listen, we're going to end off the show on this, and this just very quick, brief 1 minute.
Wait, are we not going to do the top 5 players with most pressure?
If you let him go.
I wanted to do this. I feel like the pressure thing is kind of like, I don't know, too similar. We could do it, but I more so had this in mind because I like revisiting NBA history because things happen so sporadically, and we never know what's going to happen. So this is a new segment on the podcast, revisiting top picks from previous draft. Today, we're going to take a deeper look into the 2014 draft, the second overall pick in Jabari Parker.
Okay, that's an
now
unfortunate score right there.
Coming out of the draft, him and Wiggins were grouped in, versing each other, and you were picking a side, Wiggins or Jabari, who's going to be better. I don't know about you, but I thought Jabari was going to be a great player in the NBA. What were your thoughts on Jabari, OG?
He kind of reminded me of Antoine Walker, kind of like what this kid down in Orlando is, just a better athlete, only except he just couldn't hold up. He had a really good mid-range game. He could get to the basket with anybody, could shoot the long ball, was one of the better rebounding rookies. And I really thought that I didn't see any history. I didn't see any history of injury. So there was no reason for me to be critical of that because he didn't have anything like that. I was looking at this kid, especially considering he was the best player in the country at that point. I thought that he had the potential to be a really good franchise player. I mean, there's a reason why they drafted him because they wasn't really sure Giannis.
I agree. And Jabari Parker was supposed to be the face of the franchise for the Bucks, and it ended up being Giannis, the 15th overall pick. And then the sidekick to him wasn't even Jabari. It was Chris Middleton, a second-round pick that they traded from Detroit, that Detroit traded to Milwaukee. So Jabari Parker, I didn't see an injury, a history of injury, but people forget that I think in his third season, he was averaging 20 points per game and having a very good season until he unfortunately tore his ACL.
I think for me personally, like, you know how these young kids, they fascinate over Boncaro, his inside-outside game. That was Jabari.
That's who he was.
Boncaro. Like, he was the perfect tweener. Like, we had Melo way back when. Jabari came in, he was that tweener that can go inside and out, can post you up, can take you out into the wing, can get you to the basket. The defense was in question, but in terms of just offensive repertoire, there was a reason people had him better than Andrew Wiggins. He was a guy that can give you damn near everything on the offensive end. He had the skills to play big or to play the wing. I mean, it sucks that the injuries was damaging because the Bucks could have been really something, but they still ended up something anyways. But Jabari was a dog.
It's interesting you say that because OG and Riv, you both said about there really wasn't much of anything on Jabari Parker being an injury-prone type player. Right. The reason why Joel Embiid dropped to 3 for the latter part of that 2014 NCAA season, Joel Embiid was projected to go number 1. His hype really got that high, and then the concerns about his injury, his lower half, really drove his stock down to number 3. But then, ironically enough, it ended up being that Jabari was the one to struggle with the injuries, and it's just crazy how, and now that we have hindsight and it's so crystal clear, how the two careers are just totally opposite.
Yeah. I'm gonna add him back in 2K.
That draft was interesting because Embiid was the 3rd pick. Julius Randle was the 7th or 6th pick, I believe, one of those. Jokic was actually in that draft.
Really? That was the one?
Jokic was drafted in that draft. Yeah.
Yo, Riv, you know who else was in that draft?
Oh,
our boy.
Levine?
Levine.
Oh,
Aaron Gordon.
He was a lottery pick, right? He was right outside
to Minnesota.
Marcus Smart, too.
13. He was in it.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys want to do the pressure topic or not.
I'd love to just give my 5. Honestly,
you can give your 5.
Yeah, we don't have to go too crazy.
Have fun.
So I will. Thank you. Number 5, I have Julius Randle. I feel like understanding all the trash that's talked on his name. Case in point, John Tortorelli, with the way that he constantly just says it's Julius Randle. It's the playoffs. Do we remember what happened against Atlanta? How can you take the Knicks seriously? That's because Julius Randle and the pressure that's on him now, he has, especially with how great he has looked this season. I don't think anyone expected him after last season to be an all-NBA performer. He has done that again, and I believe that now it's extra heightened for him to play at a high level. Number 4, I have Anthony Davis. And I have Anthony Davis on this list because people continuously call him a Disney. They call him street clothes.
Day-to-day.
Day-to-day Davis. Absolutely.
I love that one.
Keep it going.
Do you love that one? How about Way Off P?
Oh, that one.
All right, so keep it quiet. So there's
that would hurt.
There's allegations on Anthony Davis's name and just how amazing he has played this season. He has pressure on him to continue to play at that level, especially the way that I talk about him and the way that I talk about the Lakers. There is pressure on him to deliver at that next level, absolutely no doubt. Number 3, I have Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum, after last year and the quote-unquote collapse in the finals, he understands that, yes, I want to solidify myself as one of the best players in the league. Nevertheless, I still feel like there's 2 more players that have a little bit more pressure on him, and that's who the guys that are going to finish number 1 and 2 in MVP voting. Number 2, I have Nikola Jokic. The reason why he's not number 1 is because Joel Embiid has run his mouth a little bit too much. Joel Embiid could have just kept playing his game. But you know what? To be fair to him, I don't know if him being quiet would have allowed him to get himself as strong to the MVP as he is. He's going to win the MVP. And I feel like him talking about it has given himself that extra nudge on top of his amazing performance on the court. Let's just not say this is all narrative based. He was absolutely phenomenal this season, no doubt about it, defensively as well. But he has more pressure on him than Jokic because Jokic just stays quiet. He plays his game. But nevertheless, there's pressure on Jokic because he's a 2-time MVP. He has done nothing in the playoffs. And by nothing, he has made it to a WCF. But since being an MVP, you could say his team's been injured. But now there's no excuses. The Nuggets are legit. You have Jamal Murray, MPJ, Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown. This is a solid unit. And, of course, you have Jokic, who is leading one of the best offense in the game. There's pressure on you to win, but there's no more pressure than the guy that is.
Drew, I got to be honest.
He has to do something.
I'm really hoping that Denver goes far because I don't want to have that conversation if they don't.
And, that's exactly why.
I don't.
What about John? You ready for that?
I do not want to have that conversation.
So you have Embiid at 1.
I have Embiid at 1. I feel like he has the most pressure on him. He's never made an ECF. I feel like now with James Harden, and this is the best we've seen James. He does, but I feel like these other guys have a little bit more pressure than
Harden has more pressure.
You know what? I'm not gonna lie to you, Drew.
Okay.
You know,
I see that logic.
I was gonna let you just give your list and then end off the show, but
couldn't let you do it.
It's just so my list is just very different from yours. It is
okay
because my top 5 players with the most pressure in the playoffs. Number 5, I think, is John Moran. I think John Moran was all season running his mouth about the Grizzlies running the West.
Yeah. Facts.
People kind of overlook that now because of the trouble he got into and, sitting out some games, but he said that they run the West. So there's a lot of pressure on the Grizzlies, who could be a first-round exit, and there's a lot of pressure in itself to just beat the Lakers, LeBron, and AD in the first round. Number 4 to me is Chris Paul. Chris Paul is a top 5 point guard of all time. He needs a championship to solidify his legacy. I think he does. And now playing with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, coached by Monty Williams, this is the best chance he's ever had in his career outside of 2018 and 2021 when he made the finals and then played poorly down the stretch in that series. This is Chris Paul's chance to solidify his legacy. Number 3 is James Harden. The only thing missing from James Harden's legacy is a championship. And that's why 3 and 2 to me are both Embiid at 2 and 3 Harden. They both need to prove a lot in the playoffs. James Harden more so, because Embiid, I feel like I'm confident I know what he's going to do. James Harden is the wild card where when things get tighter, we want to see him perform at a big-time level. And number 1 is Jokic. I think the Nuggets, Jokic, they're under the most pressure. They're the first seed this year. They're finally healthy with Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. They have to make the finals this year. I don't think they will because of the Suns, but the Nuggets, if they don't make it to the finals, there's going to be a lot of backlash.
I like your list, Joel.
You don't think Ja got you think Ja got more pressure than Jason Tatum?
Hell yeah. You know why, Rev? The reason why is because he popped all of that, about I don't have any worries in the West. For them to get bounced in round 1 by an old LeBron James, oh my God. Do you want to have that conversation?
So you think he's going to get real flack for losing to LeBron?
Oh, he's going to get roasted for that.
I don't think so. I mean, you can't talk to him.
Let's just take Lakers Memphis off the table. Right. A 7 beating a 2, that's an upset.
I agree.
Not only is that an upset,
but it's a different 7.
A 7 beating a 2, that's an upset. But a 2 that was popping a lot of noise throughout the season, saying that they're this and they're that, and to get bounced by a 7, oh my goodness, he's going to have to send.
I think that's a good pick, though. The Ja Morant is definitely under pressure with everything you mean.
I think Tatum will at least make the conference finals. I think the Celtics, they're a lock to make this conference.
But are we not getting to the point that the Celtics are championship or bust? And especially after the performance that he put forth last season, there's pressure on him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nothing changes. If they don't make the
NBA.
finals, they don't win the finals, nothing changes with Boston. If Embiid struggles, shit could get blown up. If Jokic struggles, they can move some pieces. Like if Randall struggles, guys can get traded. Just Boston with Tatum, he's under pressure, but the team isn't going to change.
They're not moving it. No, they're not.
The same thing about Ja. Ja's 24
I was going to say, nothing's happening with the
Nothing's
Grizzlies.
happening to him. If
Nothing.
It's just given what he said.
I get that. It's the shit.
Rev. If the Memphis Grizzlies lose in round 1, there's no way that they running it back.
But OJ,
No
if they lose in round 1, it won't be because of Ja. It's going to be because of Jaren Jackson. I mean, Ja for his career averaged 28 points and
to be fair,
and assists in the playoffs.
I understand your point. Like he was talking shit. He said, "I'm fine." So I understand what y'all saying. Like it's just. Damn, yeah, no, he did it to himself.
I think Tatum.
You made valid points, very good ones.
Tatum already has a finals appearance, multiple conference finals appearance. I think he's fine. He has some leeway because he has a type of success.
That leeway, sure.
Aren't we getting to the point where we need Tatum to have this championship? Because
not
we're putting him in the conversation.
Tatum's like 24.
I'm with Drew on this.
You got to look at all the guys who win chips. Like Jordan was old, LeBron was old, Curry was like all the guys who win chips. You're like 28, 27.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but tell me that there wasn't pressure on Lebron to win.
Dehls, the difference.
We don't look at Tatum like LeBron.
The difference between
but people talk.
Tatum walked in. The difference between Tatum and those guys is Tatum walked into a team that was ready to compete from day one. They've been ready to compete since he walked into the league. Jordan didn't come into that. Magic did, but all them 80s guys did. But Jordan did, LeBron did it. Like, it was different.
I mean, to be fair though,
Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
To be fair, like nobody put pressure on LeBron to win a ring at 24 years old.
Nah.
It was when he teamed up with Miami, and it's like, okay, now you really got to win. And the Celtics are homegrown. They're going to be like this for the next couple of years. When Tatum reaches 27, 28, his prime, you need to. Embiid, Jokic, they're in their prime. Chris Paul, James Harden, they're past it, but at least James Harden is still playing at a similar level. Not quite his prime, but
the leash
a couple steps below, but he's still great.
The leash is getting short, though. It's getting short.
Riv is speaking because especially with the way that you guys have started to overanalyze his regular season games, the way that people talk about his finals performances where, albeit it was not great, the way that people now bring that into the discussion when discussing Jason Tatum and how he stacks up against the other really great players in the association. People want to have conversations the way that Joel has them about Tatum being better than Luka, being on the level of the top five in the association. There's pressure that's associated with that. Exactly, which is why I feel like Joel, I feel where you're coming from. He has a great resume.
I think
using the championship.
I think using Luka is a poor example because Luka's not been to the finals yet.
He went to a WCF with a team that stacks nowhere near.
Well,
near.
Two things really quickly, Drew. So after the 2007 NBA Finals, that was the wrap on James. Okay, this guy is coming. So it was no way that we were thinking, okay, that was just an aberration. No, that was the logic with James that we're gonna see this guy. He's the next one. I think the idea with Jason Tatum, I equated to basically raising the debt. Like, all right, at some point you're gonna have to start repaying on this because we keep seeing this. At some point, all right, when are we gonna get here? All right, when are you gonna pay this money back? Okay, you've been borrowing this, and you're on borrowed time now. So now we're getting to a point where I think we're in year 6. If they don't get there this year, I think the volume's going to get turned. And I'm a big Jason Tatum guy, but I think the volume's going to get turned up on him even louder.
That's a fair point. Now, 4 super chats, then we're gone. Jack, OG bang on about RJ and his struggles. However, you guys are all wrong and will be eating your words in 2 weeks' time. Knicks in 6.
RJ sucks.
Did you hear what I said about RJ?
Yeah, I don't think he heard you.
Did you hear what I said
OG,
about
you don't have to
I'm a big
defend
RJ fan.
You don't have to defend yourself, OG.
Q Boogavelli. Spider is 28 points per game and almost an all-time playoff player.
We'll see about the all-time playoff performer. We have to that's a strong statement.
Now this from Paul Murray. Shout out to Dehls Internet during today's show.
Oh, dude, that needs a round of applause. That needs a round of applause.
And now broken elevator pitch. Sorry, guys, but I watch the show for the analysis, not just the picks. Everyone on the show is wrong about a pick every show.
God, no doubt about that. No doubt about it. We all are. I don't get everything right, but I do pick something, though. There's a difference.
Yeah, that is true. John, did you want to get a word in?
I do got to apologize to Drew. I came at you hard there on the LeBron topic.
Oh, that's all right, bud.
No, don't let him off the hook. I know we're adults here, and I know that we're adults here, and I know that we could be civil. But when you say something wild, no, do not let him off the hook. Don't.
No, hey, there's nothing to be off the hook about me when it comes to LeBron James.
Look what he's wearing.
I mean, that guy's the best lawyer there ever was. Let's just be honest.
NPC Santos, I'm going to start recording playback. I'm not sure if we'll be live on playback tonight, but we'll definitely be going live throughout the NBA playoffs and watching the games with you guys. You guys can join us on playback. Link is in the bio.
Tomorrow. If you guys are with it tomorrow, I'm down.
We could. Tomorrow I can't. I have a yard sale.
Well, you know what? Either which way.
Tomorrow's already got my birthday thing she doing. I don't know what she did.
Not doing
Happy birthday, Riv. Happy birthday, Riv.
That's going to do it for episode 272 of the Pickside Podcast. I want to thank OG for being on the show. It's always a pleasure when you're on.
OG, before you go, is there anything you want to shout out?
Hey, man. Shout out to the playoffs. We've been waiting all year for this. Shout out to the playoffs. Let's do it. So
James Harden ring season.
It's always a pleasure, man. Like I told y'all, it's like when the fellas call me and say we're going to the boys club. I'll be there. Let me know what time. So I appreciate you, fellas. As always, you know where to find me at. Take it light, guys. But
thank you, OG. You guys can follow us on Twitter at Pickside Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Pickside Podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Please help and support our sponsors, and we'll see you next time.
Contract year.